you know the parties. And I know the island. I'm thinking, maybe you and I can partner up.
You want to run duos? You and me? Competitors?
That's right. Either that, or I release the Diddy files. 667,000 bottles of baby oil.
All in?
No. Each.
Each?
And you know, truth be told, I'm not a very big fan of the black people.
Falling down on you. The fleet is moving nearer still. The Strait of Hormuz, it comes in view. The oil must flow through. And I ran so far away. The bomb I bombed them night and day. But destroy USA.
Strike, the greatest military operation in the history of the world.
Well, another festival wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind, and we'll roll the old chariots along. We'll roll the old chariots along. We'll roll the old chariots along, and we'll all hang on behind, and we'll
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you're having a wonderful night tonight. Well, yes, what is this? Day 3 of the Iran war that we streamed at 4 o'clock in the morning, Saturday or something like that. So, I mean, closer to day 2 than it is to day 3, but say lovey, We got lots of stuff to talk about. Some great memes have come out of the engagement. Unfortunately, the loss of 6 American lives that absolutely did not need to happen. We'll get into some of the ramifications, what's going on right now, the little dust up in Pakistan where a bunch of retards attempted to storm the embassy and got BTFO'd by room temp IQ American chuds doing their job. And then we got some ramifications for what that means back home because, of course, following the initial attacks, we then had a I don't even know if I can pronounce the guy's name on stream, all right? Because it's a very funny name, but he murdered some people in the US, and we are undoubtedly going to be seeing more of those attacks on US soil as well in response to our government's actions overseas, some of the whys. We have a wholesome daddy-daughter date between Kim Jong-un and his daughter, just world leaders out there being girl dads, kind of wholesome, right? Right? That's super wholesome. And then, of course, we got rage bait and a couple other stories to get to before we do. But before we get into all of that, ladies and gentlemen, we have Richard, Cranium, and because I just sent in the link because I forgot to do it until the stream started, we have James. How's everybody's night going?
I was like, oh shoot, I've got 1 minute before the stream starts because my studio set up here.
No, I was like, wait a second. There's one thing I've got to do. And it's send an invite link.
Oh well, no, it's good. I'm doing all right. How are you, John?
James?
Sorry, say again, Richard.
I was just saying, glad James could make it in time.
Yeah, I know. I only gave him 14 extra minutes from 8 o'clock. So
my wife's not very happy with you because she was looking forward to having dinner together. And it's like, sorry, babe, gotta run. Focus yourself.
Well, I mean, you could have gone. You could have gone. You're replacing your wife with me. That's a downgrade. Okay, that's a downgrade. That is the worst deal in the history of trade deals.
Wait,
Believe
hold
me,
on.
I feel
What
that
was
way
for
as well.
dinner? That it might not have
Hey,
been.
wait a second. You're supposed to be like, nah, John, it's
No.
fine. Not be like, yeah, damn, you're right, man. I got to get out of here.
It's okay. The perks are I still get dinner. I'll have some Italian delivered out here in a second.
Oh, heck yeah. Well, I don't know if you guys have seen this yet, but there were some reports that Iran had managed to strike one of our boats, right? One of our what's the name of this ship? The USS Liberty? Oh wait, no. Sorry, wrong one. They did not. That was not true. But I just cycling through some of the memes and some of the hardest community notes of all time. Readers added context that they thought people might want to know. Allah did not protect him. Tragic. Now, as far as replacing the Ayatollah, their initial replacement was actually killed, and a short notice replacement, Mr. Sam Haidullah, has been tipped to be leading the new Ayatollah, the new Iranian government, once we change hands. So,
How does he keep getting away with it?
I almost killed myself taking a sip there. Sam Hyde strikes me from the grave. Ugh. Oh, but then of course we also got... All right, no, I'm good. I'm totally good.
John dies
Totally
on
good.
stream.
Yeah. Dark Hide Jihad, yes. All right. Whoa. Excuse me. We do at least, the benefits of fighting a war where everybody has cell phones is you do get some cool footage, though. That is one of the side benefits. I love the dichotomy. You have house trap music going on, people at a party, plumes of smoke throughout the city as they're just watching drone strikes happen. Just it's just 2026.
Where is this?
So some of these strikes,
no,
these are in Dubai. These are in
That's
Dubai.
Dubai.
We have some from Iran, some in Dubai, some in Bahrain, and then we have some on the ground footage from places in Israel as well. Now, some of the footage is more insane than others. This is like the worst night of your life, or maybe the luckiest night of your life, because you hear this little sound coming at you, and there looks like there's a little Dorito flying basically right at this guy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Wow.
Insanely lucky. That little the Sahid drones, right? Those cost like what, $30K to make, and every interceptor is like 1.5 mil or something like that. So yeah, that little flying Dorito right into one of the buildings. And I think that might be a different angle of this video right here. And you can see, like, that did some serious damage. That affected, 3, 4, 5 floors right there. So that guy, if he's filming from, down here somewhere, very lucky. Very lucky.
Wow. 25 years later, and they're still flying planes into towers.
Well, the tactics have updated, right?
they're
The
just
suicide bombers have now stopped. They're just one-way drones, which is like Honestly, that's another tragic loss of another industry when you think about it. The AI drones are taking their jobs. Right?
It's a dark
come on.
joke.
It's a dark joke, but there's like home jihads, like panning. AI took my job. Oh gosh.
Do the bots also get 77 versions? Like 77?
72 versions.
Yeah, 72.
They get 72 sticks of RAM.
Yeah.
I think that's how it goes, because
Like
that's
unused
valuable.
RAM.
Yeah, unused.
Yeah.
Still in the packaging.
Yeah.
All right. Here we have just aftermath. I think this is in Tel Aviv, I want to say, but just some of the aftermath of some of the rocket strikes on buildings. Now, fortunately for, if you're in Israel anyways, you are probably in a bomb shelter. So the reported casualties have been very low, right? So there's no reason for you to be in these buildings while they're being shelled. A lot of the Iranians and other places don't have the same heads up warning. They don't have the same infrastructure. So it's not going to go quite as well for you. What? Why the heck? Now, this is just funny. Okay, this is a American soldier on a base in Qatar, right? I don't know what he's doing there. I thought a lot of these places were already evacuated, but he's watching a truck, his truck specifically, get hit by a drone. And his response is very classic.
That's my fucking truck.
In the middle of a war zone, watching equipment get destroyed, just chilling, hanging out.
That's my fucking truck.
Oh, is this an
mostly
old
annoyed.
one? Damn it. I got, see, that's the thing. When you're looking at this footage, when you're scrolling Twitter and somebody posts something, you have no idea. Or at least I have no idea if this was like recent or last year. Either way, still funny. Okay. Still funny.
Very funny.
Yeah. Now, of our actual goals in the region right now, we're going to have Marco Rubio walk us through it in a minute, but essentially they have no fleet left, which is, at least as far as the Americans are concerned, that's part of our goal, was to destroy any of their short-range missile systems or any of their fleet that could possibly threaten any U.S. assets in the region. So 2 days ago, the Iranian regime had 11 shifts in the Gulf of Oman. Today, they have 0, CENTCOM wrote on X. The Iranian regime has harassed and attacked international shipping in the Gulf of Oman for decades. Those days are over. So from 11 to 0, because what was the last time, like in the 80s when we took out their Navy? They barely managed to get a few ships out, and now they're back down to 0. Now, with this war in Iran, one of the big things that I don't really see a lot of people talking about is the logistics of it all, is the amount of munitions, because it's pretty undoubted, uncontested, that America has the best technology. We have the best munitions. We're the most capable with what we have. But the question is, do we actually have enough of it for any sort of prolonged engagement? There are estimates that, like, against China or Russia, we would last a total of 50 days at maximum rate before we would have to taper off. And that's the amount of munitions we have. And unfortunately, now we're spending them in the Middle East. This is an article from 2 years ago talking about how we simply don't have enough munitions. We have, the best technology. We have the best delivery systems, some of the best personnel out there, but we simply don't have enough of the raw stuff to get the job done, right? And then, of course,
when we're saying ammo, we're not talking about 5.56 rounds. We're talking about
right. We're talking
missiles.
about
we're talking about like heavy ballistics and bombs and the stuff that actually wins wars.
Correct. Yes, because our small arms is fine. We can crank out small arms, and in fact, our small arms production hasn't really been affected in terms of civilian sales. I mean, there's been a couple little price increases over the last 6 months to a year, but it's maintained relative evenness throughout just about everything. So the big problem, though, is this was from just a couple of days ago. Iran strikes threaten to deplete U.S. weapon supplies and put American troops at risk. Now, why is this a big deal? Well, because China is very happy that we are taking all of our big, heavy, expensive, hard-to-produce munitions and slapping Iran around with them, right? Why wouldn't they? Because if they ever had to do something in Taiwan or some sort of expansionist movement and we were to oppose them, we would simply have less of it. So do they care that we're taking out, 20, 30, 40-year-old tech in Iran with our, multi-million-dollar missiles that we can only produce a handful a month? Not really. They're actually quite happy with all of this. So as far as China is concerned, they might not like the fact that they're not going to get as much oil, but they don't really care because it geopolitically benefits them that we are wasting munitions currently in Iran. So Pentagon officials and Hill lawmakers are increasingly warning that prolonged Iran strikes could stress U.S. military stockpiles to the brink and make the country more vulnerable. General Dan Kane and Joint Chief of Staff Chair has raised concerns about the military's shortage of air defense interceptors since January, according to a person familiar with the conversations. But the fears have magnified in recent weeks as the Pentagon amassed the largest military buildup in the Middle East since the Iraq War. And now this was written just before we actually started the attack on the 25th. This was 2 days before that. So they've been calling this out for a while. Years, articles have been written on this. And for every one of our interceptors is $1.5 million, right? Against $30,000 Shahed drones. They can make 1,000 of them a month. We can make 12. So it's the risk to reward probability there is not very good, or the return on investment is not very good, especially when we may need those against an actual adversary like China, right?
I
Iran
think the
is
biggest
like
question is not what our current production is, but what is our potential production if we needed to spin up, maximum production, because we have a pretty good track record of when we need to enlisting the civilian factories and getting, Boeing and all these people to start cranking out drones or whatever we need. I think the question is, do we have the right raw materials, and what would the time to be to spin these up? Could we get mass production at scale fast enough to make it at least through the 50 days, and then we've got a restock ready?
Right. Well, that is the question, though, right? Can we ramp up fast enough, right? Because regardless of if our economy can handle it in some, future state, right? The lag time between now and then is insane, right? And if you just don't have munitions, it doesn't matter that you don't have the best tech, that you do have the best tech, sorry, right?
And we're not the same economic industrial powerhouse that we used to be. So I think it's a very important question. I've been hearing this line for a while that we need to buy more munitions, and the ratio of what it takes to put down the enemy compared to what the amount, like what you were saying with the rockets, right? It costs a lot more to take down a rocket than it does actually make it, and at some point there's just an economic warfare that goes on where we just can't keep up. So yeah, we're more technologically advanced, but if it costs that much more to put down the enemy man for man, in the end the one with the more men wins.
Well, I think it was Kuwait, or not Kuwait. I think it was UAE. One of our allies in the area said that they've taken down 161 ballistic missiles, and that includes a bunch of drones and other things. But then you total the cost of all of that, and it's like, it cost them like $14 million to send these to us, and it cost us like $4.5 billion.
So who's really winning there? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's another thing too. Like you'll see it. They'll send 10 or 12 interceptors out there, and one missile gets through, and they don't really care. Right? They're not even 100% effective at what they do. So the 30,000 to 1.5 million isn't even a true number because they're not 100% effective.
Now, I seem to recall sending some rockets to Ukraine. Surely they haven't used those, or we could buy those back pretty easily if we really needed some
I'm
more.
pretty sure they sold those. Yeah, that's another thing. I have no idea how the financial mismanagement and material mismanagement affects all of this in Europe and stuff like that. But yeah, we would need to drastically up our production. But the issue with Iran is while we're spending all of it, we're not replacing it. So if this drags out to weeks or months, you need to have the political impotence, even though we're not in a war with China, even though we're not in a war with Iran, to say, hey, civilian sector, you're now making bombs for us because we're at a critical low level that if a potential war happened, right, which you're going to spend a lot of political capital to tell people to, hey, guess what, you're now making bombs for the U.S. government to dissuade some sort of potential movement by China or someone else, right?
Did you say political influence? Because it sounded like you said political impotence. which is very different.
I meant to say political capital,
Okay.
but political
Gotcha.
influence. Yes,
Okay.
something. Political impotence. Well, I mean, it could result in political impotence, right? You strike Iran, which isn't majorly popular, and then you're starting to infringe on the civilian sector by saying, hey, you got to start making bombs for something else. It's like, okay, so you're going from one engagement to another engagement. People aren't going to be happy with that. Now, if you're also not happy about this was a update from yesterday, which is unfortunately the number has gone up. Tampa, Florida, as of 9:30 a.m. Eastern, March 1st, 3 U.S. service members have been killed in action and 5 are seriously wounded as part of Operation Epic Fury. Several others sustained minor shrapnel injuries and concussions and are in the process of being returned to duty. Major combat operations continue and a response effort is ongoing. The situation is fluid, so out of respect for the families, we will withhold additional information, including the identities of our fallen warriors, until 24 hours after next of kin has been notified. Now, I checked just before the stream, and that number has gone up to 6 currently. Several seriously wounded as well. But that number is sitting currently at 6. So 6 American soldiers have been killed in the conflict with Iran. Yeah. Now, the title of the stream is, of course, Trump's response to it all. I'm not sure if you guys have seen this, but that's just the way it is, bucko. That's just the way it is in war. And we'll discuss why we got in there, at whose behest, or at whose forcing of our hand, and some other little comical things maybe to ease the tension.
And send our immense love and eternal gratitude to the families of the fallen. And sadly, there will likely be more. Before it ends, that's the way it is. Likely be more, but send.
That's the way it is. Now, I agree with him that yes, in war, that is often the way it is. But Trump does seem to be a little bit callous here, or a little bit, that just happened. 6 American soldiers dead. Now, I know a lot of people are arguing, well, we've been in a war with Iran, a soft war with Iran for like 40 years, and they've killed 65 or whatever the number is of American soldiers throughout that time. So this is really just a continuation of something that's been happening since the 1980s. But I feel like that's a little bit of cope, because this is a obvious direct retaliation for the fact that we were working with Israel to decapitate their entire leadership command. Right. And likely be more. It's also unfortunate.
Yeah, I think that it's it wasn't the best way to phrase that, for sure. It comes across as callous, and I think that he is correct technically.
Of course, yeah, it is a necessary
war.
reality of
this
war.
Is what they signed up for, and some people think that they're, if you don't like the war, then obviously you're going to think their lives are wasted. But ultimately, they are, signed up to do what the Department of War tells them to, it's obviously tragic. But I think that treating them like victims rather than heroes is probably the wrong tack to take. I feel like some people are just treating them like they're victims of our government. It's like, well, that's not really. I doubt they would even say it like that.
No, I mean, the elephant in the room here is that these guys were doing their job. They were doing what they were signed up to do, right? They had no real control of the situation. So as far as in soldiers dying in the commission of their duty, right? It's a hero's death, right? But the other side of that coin is the fact that, we caused it by allowing Israel to strike during negotiations is a little problematic as well, right? And also, when Trump says that some of you may, there will likely be more. Today, when asked, he will not rule out sending U.S. troops to Iran. So actual American troops on Iranian soil, which will undoubtedly result in many, many deaths on all sides. It will escalate things to, GWAT era. So this could be GWAT 2.0 in a lot of ways, potentially.
Certainly seems similar, doesn't it? There's a lot of overlap. I think, to me, the thing I find somewhat comforting is Trump is very much a legacy guy, and he knows the legacy that the Bushes have to put up with now, and he does not want that. And he's built something of a brand around not getting us into endless wars. So I do think that if purely on an ego basis, he has a strong incentive to make this quick. I think there are plenty of other incentives as well to make this quick. So I doubt this will be the same, right? I think I agree that there are a lot of apparent similarities, but I don't anticipate this lasting, another 20 years. But we'll see.
Well, yeah. Just 2 weeks, 2 weeks to flatten Tehran, right? That's the line. But yeah, if you told me this in like 2016 through 2020, I would be like, no way Trump's going to get us involved in a war, because in 2016 to 2020, his first presidency, there were no new foreign wars, right? There were no random strikes on countries. There were no, as baller as it was, we didn't, kidnap dictators in the middle of the night, right? But here we are doing something.
I mean,
it did it.
That
again, was an interesting move, right?
I think that kind of gives Trump a little bit more of that political capital to say, like, hey, trust me on this one. Like, I'm in with these short engagements. Get it in, get our achievements granted, and then get out. We'll see if it works. But I kind of see that Maduro as sort of a test of like, hey, let's see what the American people will take. Let's see, let's try to build some credibility.
Yeah, testing the water.
Yeah.
But again, even with that, while it did work flawlessly, perfectly, right? Only a couple American injuries. If one of those choppers had got shot down and we lost like 6 Delta guys, right? And the pilots and everybody, that would not have ended the same way. And it was razor close. It was
very
razor close.
The American people love it when we're winning. And we will put up with this as long as we are winning, as long as we feel like we're winning. That's the more important thing, right? Whether we're winning or not. But if we feel like we're winning, we'll put up with war pretty much anywhere. At least that's the sense that I get. And certainly this is probably the most popular this police action war, whatever it is going to be. And so, they got to get in and get it done, because it's only going to become less and less popular. And if this drags on coming up on the midterms and the election after that, I mean, that's going to just throw everything off, and it's not worth it for that. So yeah, I certainly, like I said, I think there's a lot of incentives to get out quickly. I just hope that they're strong enough and that we have, that we end up following those incentives.
No, I agree with that. I did see another, again, you just see these like random reports come out where people are just reporting on internal sources, allegedly, where they're like, all right, we've been notified that we are actually preparing for a longer engagement than the initial, 4-day campaign. We're now looking at weeks rather than days. Weeks turned into months. So again, this could very quickly spend all good political capital when he was already spending a lot of political capital, right? The Epstein files did not go over well, have not been going over well with anyone. It's been actually really effectively used against him, even though there's not really anything on him that we didn't already know in the files, right? But it just looks bad because he was, obfuscating a little bit rather than just dumping everything on the American public, so to speak, metaphorically. But yeah. It really does depend on the next 2 weeks. And again, if the alleged existing hypersonic missiles get used on a carrier or a ship or a false flag, then all of that could go sideways very quickly. 5 weeks equals 20 years.
Have hypersonic missiles?
Iran allegedly does possess hypersonic missiles that they have not. They did employ them last year during the war. We saw a few of those get launched into Israel, and they're supposedly unstoppable. So I don't know if those were hopefully destroyed in the initial attacks. I imagine those were very high value targets, but again, it takes one of them to get us involved in the war.
Dick Cheney said that they have labs and precursors for chemical weapons. So
Dick Cheney, from the grave, an unopened letter, a time capsule from Dick Cheney gets opened. He's like, Iran has nuclear bombs. Although that's something I haven't heard any more rhetoric on that at all for the last couple of days.
Nope.
I have nothing about Iran having a nuclear weapon, about having precursor materials, like nothing. That has apparently
that's
just gone.
Line, right? Because you can't claim that Iran was on the verge of having nuclear weapons, and that the attack last year was totally successful, right? You can't claim both those things at the same time. Was it last year? I don't know. Whenever
they tried to,
Midnight
though,
Hammer
because like a couple months ago they were like, hey, there's signs that they're restarting their nuclear things. Or
well, that's a
they
different
even
claim, though,
tried
right?
to-
Like, I'm sure they could actually say that in truth. I'm sure they were restarting it. It's just, are they now on the verge? Almost certainly not, right? Either, even if it wasn't completely effective, Midnight Hammer wasn't completely effective, there's just no way that, well, we've been hearing for the last 20 years that they're on the verge of having nuclear weapons, and who knows if that's ever been fully true. But yeah, you can't claim that attack was totally effective and that they're, were rapidly able to spin it all back up. So, at some point they're either lying or misdirecting. But I suspect that in both cases they're probably hedging their bets a little bit. But I do think that I think that is probably the weakest claim in terms of the reasons to go in. Although I don't think they need that claim. I think there's plenty of great reasons to bomb Iran. I'm very pro bombing Iran.
All right, Mr. Bolton. Damn. Jeez. Yeah, somebody mentioned it earlier. Yes, we have our well, actually, no, it wouldn't be liberal. We have our liberal correspondent on the show tonight. But no, we have our neocon correspondent on tonight, filling us in on all of the rhetoric. All right.
My exact words, John, when I offered to come on was, if you're having a panel discussion, I'd love to be one of the panel. I didn't want to be the one guy on.
Oh, well, that's fine.
Everyone said.
I get out then, bro. You can eat your dinner and have a good time with your wife. All right, fine. But no, this did happen today. I read this, I watched this, and I was just asking myself, how did this happen? How did we allow this to happen? So yes, 3 U.S. warplanes shot down by Kuwaiti air defenses. Pilots bail out in friendly fire incident, CENTCOM says. And here's the footage of one of our F-15Es. Just falling out of the sky on fire. And now, fortunately, all of the pilots were able to eject. I think some of them only suffered minor injuries at worst. But I guess we just don't communicate with our allies in the region about who has F-15Es, and they just see dots on a screen and they fire missiles at them. So that's cool. Wild story. 3 U.S. Air Force F-15E Strike Eagles were shot down in a friendly fire incident over Kuwait late Sunday during active combat operations tied to Operation Epic Fury. What do you think about the name Epic Fury? Oh, no. Go ahead. Get out.
Oh, no, I'm back. I can answer that. I got to run in just a second. But no, I think Epic is a little bit memey sounding to me. Like Midnight Hammer sounds a little bit more tough. Epic Fury. I like Fury.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's fine. I don't have any thoughts.
It's fine.
What about
you? All right. Well, I know Ben was a big fan. Operation Epic Fury, CENTCOM said, the aircraft were mistakenly engaged by Kuwaiti air defenses amid a complex battle environment that included attacks from Iranian aircraft, ballistic missiles, and drones. All 6 aircrew members safely ejected and were quickly recovered and are reported to be in stable condition. Kuwaiti officials have acknowledged the incident and an investigation is underway to determine the cause. So yeah, the first time American planes have been shot down since what? 2005? It's been a long time since we've had one of our planes shot down in combat, and the fact that it was a friendly fire incident kind of makes it funny. Now, fortunately, again, all of these servicemen and women made it out just fine. And it did lead to some rather awkward interactions on the ground. Richard, I don't know if you saw any of those where the pilots are just like sitting there talking to the random Kuwaitis who show up and are like, are you all right? Yeah, I'm fine. You sure you good? It's like, okay, yeah. And then they like load one of the guys who's a little injured into the back of one of their vehicles, just like drive off with him. It's like, I guess at least the Kuwaitis seem nice. And from some of the other guys that I heard that served there, it's like, at least the locals are nice. And they're just going to take care of you and like get you back to a military base somewhere.
Yeah, it's like, hey, sorry about your plane.
Yeah, sorry about that, bro. Well, I mean, they're just locals. It's not like the Kuwaiti military picked them up. It's like actual just locals find the pilots. In separate footage, pilots could be seen parachuting towards the ground surrounded by smoke. The Kuwaiti's army's official account that its air defense force confronted a number of hostile aerial targets at dawn, intercepting and tracking them as part of operations in a central part of the country. Now, I don't know how any of this stuff works, right? I have no idea how you mistake a friendly plane for a non-friendly. I don't know if they use a specific transponder for IFF or what it is, right? Or if it's just like, hey, we got a bunch of dots on screen. We know that the Iranians are sending in drones and planes, so we're just shooting at everything. And then the US government isn't telling you, hey, by the way, we have 3 F-15Es and here are their, like, do they coordinate with their allies? Apparently not enough. Lack of training. I also saw one funny little meme. I don't know if it's true that the Kuwaitis had hired a bunch of Indians to manage their systems. And so if true, very funny. Very funny. Lost Arrow says $5. They forgot to turn the radio on. Yeah. But yeah, that is what's the F-15E cost? $3 million, $4 million, about 12 million down the drain, or literally nothing. Literally nothing. Well, I do want to wait for James to get back so he can correspond and give his opposing take on the Marco Rubio comments, because the Marco Rubio comments are wild. He is essentially saying, and this spoiler alert, that they went to war. They planned the attack now because Israel was going to attack with or without the United States, which means that Iran is going to respond. And that means that they're going to Israel is going to put American lives in danger. So the only option is to attack with the Israelis. $97 million.
Yeah, dude, they're $97 million each.
$300 million.
I didn't want to interrupt you, but yes, they are
$300 million down because somebody didn't turn their radio.
Yeah. I didn't want to interrupt your monologue there, but it's significantly higher than 3 or 4 mil.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's like F-15s have been around forever.
Right, but in recent years
it's the new ones. It's the new ones, but that's insane. $300 million, dog. $300 million in a friendly fire incident. Now, again, fortunately, nobody was killed, but maybe we should kill all of the Indians that were manning their radars or something like that. Unbelievable. But getting back to this story here. Yeah, so essentially, Israel had planned the date. They're like, we're going in, and yeah, we're going to endanger a bunch of American lives. We don't care. And so then USA had to respond with them, which, again, if your hand is forced like that, it kind of makes sense. But on the other hand, it's like, why are we kowtowing or following along with what Israel is essentially forcing us into, right? We might not even want to do this ourselves. It might not even be appropriate to do it now, but we kind of have to because our quote unquote greatest ally is going to make it happen, right? They were F-15Es, not EXs. Again, whatever the cost was, it's a lot of money.
Doesn't it cost like $1 million just to run a sortie with one of those things? That's probably more your F-15s.
The operational cost. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, but have you seen Marco Rubio's comments on the whole thing?
Not in full, but I've heard clips.
Yeah. So he's flat out telling us that we were in a war with Iran because Israel forced our hand. This is from Matt Walsh of the Daily Blog, who is he's right there on the edge of like being Daily Wire approved or not, constantly battling it out. This is basically the worst possible thing he could have said. So the president made a very wise decision. We knew that this was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that they would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would have lost more people, right? So I'll just let him get it out here.
The United States conducted this operation with a very clear goal in mind. I haven't got a chance to see a lot of reporting. I don't understand what the confusion is. Let me explain it to you, and I'll do it once again as clearly as possible. Perhaps you'll report it that way. The United States is conducting an operation to eliminate the threat of Iran's short-range ballistic missiles and the threat posed by their Navy, particularly to naval assets. That is what it is focused on doing right now, and it's doing quite successfully. I'll leave it to the Pentagon and the Department of War to discuss.
Again, as far as where right now, their entire Navy is gone, at least in the Gulf of Oman.
Discuss the tactics behind that and the progress that's being made. That is the clear objective of this mission. The second question that's been asked is, why now? Well, there's two reasons why now. The first is it was abundantly clear that if Iran came under attack by anyone, the United States or Israel or anyone, they were going to respond and respond against the United States. The orders had been delegated down to the field commanders. It was automatic, and in fact, it bared to be true because, in fact, within an hour of the initial attack on the leadership compound, the missile forces in the south and in the north, for that matter, had already been activated to launch. In fact, those had already been pre-positioned. The third is the assessment that was made that if we stood and waited for that attack to come first before we hit them, we would suffer much higher casualties. And so the president made the very wise decision. We knew that there was going to be an Israeli action. We knew that that would precipitate an attack against American forces. And we knew that if we didn't preemptively go after them before they launched those attacks, we would suffer higher casualties and perhaps even higher those killed. And then we would all be here answering questions about why we knew that and didn't act.
Now, I get the on two sides here, right? It's very problematic. It's very obnoxious that we get into a conflict or we escalate the conflict because of a small ally in the region, this tiny country of $15 million, 50 million people, forces the largest nation, the most powerful nation on earth to go against, to preemptively attack Iran, right? Very obnoxious. Tactically, I get it. It makes sense because we have a lot of assets in the region. We know that they are going to counterattack, of course, as is their right to defend themselves in this. You know, you kind of give your enemy the moral high ground when you do something like this. Like, I mean, what are you supposed to say to an Iranian who counterattacks after you eliminate their leadership, right? After you know, with like while you're in talks with them, basically, right? You kind of give your opponent the moral high ground. Tactically, makes a lot of sense to delete as many of their assets as you can before they have the ability to counterattack, especially since we knew ahead of time. But I feel like there should have been a third option here, which is just tell Israel no. Like, tell them not to do it. Like, if we don't want to get into an engagement right now, tell them no. Tell them to stop it, right?
Or what?
I mean, sorry, what?
Or what? I mean, I guess we stop funding them, or
right, there would be something, right? Surely, I mean, we give them enough in terms of munitions, in terms of monetary incentives, or whatever it might be. There has to be some card we could play. You would think, right? We have some leverage in the region, right? Or even just be like, hey, listen, we don't support this action at this time. If you go in there, we're not going to, like, what if we just said, hey, by the way, we're not sending you any more of your countermeasures? Like, that's over.
It seems to me, and maybe I'm misinterpreting the comments here, but it seems like the biggest thing that Israel forced is the timing of an operation that was basically already in play and planned. And so it was just, hey, we're going to do it now, not later, or we're going to do it at this particular time.
I mean, that's possible, right?
If
but
that's the case, that doesn't seem like yes, it seems like Israel definitely looked at the cards they had and they said, hey, I think we can, force the U.S. to join in at this time. We can make a strong case, and yeah, bully us into it. But that, I mean, that, I guess that's what I would expect every sovereign nation to do. To play their cards as best they can. It seems like they felt like they were, if they told us that they were going to go whether we wanted to or not, we could call their bluff, but we most likely wouldn't. And that was the calculus that they made. And in our case, if it was just moving around the timeline, it wasn't worth it to go against it. Now,
well, so what that makes it sound like,
yeah, but it doesn't. I don't know. It doesn't really bother me.
Well, what that makes it sound like to me is that there was never a situation in which we would have told them no in the first place, right? Because it doesn't seem like that was on the table, which is probably like the central problem, right? So while I guarantee you we have plans to attack people like at any point in time, right? We have like plan A, B, and C of what's going to happen, what we would do, whatever assets we're going to go after, all that sort of stuff at any given point in time, right? But if another problem here is, right, we were allegedly in negotiations with them. Allegedly, there was some sort of goal there, right? Now, unless that entire thing was just a lie, a smokescreen, and a bluff, which is possible, right? It is absolutely possible that the negotiations were just to dissuade them from doing anything while we were gearing up. entirely possible, right? But if that was never on the table in the first place and we were always just going to get into another war with them, right? I mean, it feels like that's the opposite of what we wanted, right? That's the opposite of what we voted Trump for, those of us who voted for Trump, right? No new wars was a big thing not too long ago, right? And
No
if
new
it seems
endless
like
wars. There's a difference.
I mean, maybe that seems like a little bit of an add-on, like post hoc after we've done it, you know, because again, if it goes over in 3 or 4 days, then maybe we don't care as much later on down the road. But you only get lucky so many times, right? We got extremely lucky with Maduro. It was handled excellently. If I hate that as a precedent too. It's like, listen, Trump, we'll allow you to do whatever the heck you want, but as long as you do it cleanly, all right? So like same thing. Like what happens if we took out the Chinese naval fleet near Taiwan? And well, it worked out okay. So we're okay with you doing it as long as it works out. Or do at some point we actually say, we actually just don't want you to escalate things. We would prefer you just stop doing that, right? And I'm not sure, again, this goes back to the whole nuclear question between Iran and Israel. Is it really just to kill Khamenei? Like, is that the entire point of it? Because again, they had stopped attacking us right after we did Operation Midnight Hammer, right? It was over, it was done, it was settled. So nothing was happening on that front. The rhetoric was expanding, you know, but this isn't going to stop things from happening here in the US and around the world in terms of the terror organizations and the terror cells that Iran is funding, which I'll just grant for the sake of argument that they're doing that. This isn't going to stop any of that. So I don't get what we get out of it other than dead American soldiers and taxpayer dollars wasted.
So there's a couple things there. In terms of the terror cells, I was thinking about this earlier. It does seem like if there are terror cells, which I grant that there most likely are, probably not as many as they would boast about, but I assume that when the border was wide open, a lot of Iranian terrorists or sympathetic terrorists came into the country and are, you know, perhaps waiting for the call, which seems like if they're going to go, then now would be the time to jump. So I'm curious to see if we see more action like we already saw at least that one incident. But it does seem like if they're already in the country just waiting for the signal, then that's a risk that doesn't really expire. I'm not really sure there's any reason to wait on springing that. It seems, in fact, it's probably better to do it now rather than later when they, you know, decapitate the head so that it's completely decentralized. So I'm just not sure that you know, versus waiting, I don't know what we gain by waiting in terms of a domestic threat.
Well, wouldn't you always want more time when it comes to a domestic threat? Like if we have these intelligence agencies that are designed to counter these people, do we want to, if we have a fuse, right, a timer, do we want a shorter timer or a longer timer to try and disable them, right? To try and defuse these bombs
There's way too many hypotheticals to really, because I guess in my...
But I would think it's like, do I want all of them to go off like tomorrow night once we assassinate Khomeini, or do I want time to find them, infiltrate them, and destroy them? I feel like time is a good thing in that regard, right? I feel like that makes sense,
especially with a closed border. Yeah, if we had good leads, but I don't know. It seems like whatever leads we have, we should be following up on it and cracking down on these. If it's just sort of this vast unknown, which is more what I'm assuming, that the border was just wide open and tons of people just poured in, and any of these sort of estimates of how many terror cells there might be are completely conjecture, not really based on any real data. It's just like they had the opportunity, so why wouldn't they have taken it? And if that's the case and we really don't have any way to track these down, then I'm not sure that the timing matters. That's what I'm saying. Now, there's a lot of assumptions even in that statement, so I don't know.
Now, there is a possible dark side tangent or side benefit to all of this, is that through the escalation of possible terror cells in the US, like we saw yesterday, that it actually increases anti-Muslim sentiment to where we actually do something about it, right? Which is really dark that people have to die for that to happen, but that is a possible theoretical side benefit.
I do like the precedent that this sets, though, is preemptive strikes if they're dangerous, right? I heard statistic somewhere that Iran funds roughly 60% of the terror Now, I'm just wondering,
I
since
don't know if
they're
you can trust those numbers. You know,
well,
I don't even know how you quantify that.
and they make up roughly like 2% of the world's population. So I'm just wondering if it's possible to go after them for 60% of the terror that takes place, even though they're only 2% of the population.
2 to 60. I mean, I grant it for the sake of argument that they're involved in all of the terror cells in the Middle East because it makes sense. They have no allies in the region for the most part. So what are you going to do to try and undermine your enemies in the region? Well, you're going to foment and supply terror cells, right? Of course, right? Because you want the heat to not be on you, so you'll allow these radicals to go out there and die for your causes rather than having them attack you. But of course, that doesn't always work out in the long run because then you make everybody mad with your existence. And there's a reason why Iran doesn't have any allies in the region. And, you know, it's really bad on them, honestly, when you look at it, that they put their country in the middle of all of our military bases. Really bad decision on their part to build their country there. Now, this is something, again, this is just another report. I have no idea if this is true or not. But if true, interesting. Vice President J.D. Vance reportedly swayed President Trump to launch a large attack with the purpose of toppling the Iranian government rather than a smaller, limited strike intended to spur negotiations. Which again, Trump makes deals with people, right? He met with Kim Jong-un. He makes deals with people all the time. He does crazy things to get people to the negotiation table. So it does seem like a more Trump move to, like, I don't know, send in a couple more B2s and be like, listen, let's speed this along and let's get to the end state here.
I think that's what Warhammer was about, or Midnight Hammer, whatever. I think
and it worked. It worked flawlessly. That one did, right?
Except, I don't think that there's barely been any movement. I think that they said they would. I mean, I don't know. I don't think they've really moved anywhere. They've upped their rhetoric against the United States.
It stopped the fighting immediately.
Yeah, but then
basically all of it, right?
Right, but they're not willing to make any actual concessions, right? So they're willing to do a ceasefire, but if that's the only concession, that's not much. And I think that we wanted much more.
If we want escalation, it's like so we bomb their nuclear sites. All right, perfect. We send in a couple more B2s and, you know, F-35s, F-22s, whatever it is. We take out their Navy and, you know, a bunch of their ballistic missiles, and we're like, all right, listen, we're escalating here. We're not killing you yet, but that's like the next thing, dog, right? So it makes escalation makes it right.
Kick them while they're down. I don't know. Yeah,
you can, right? That is an
Why
option.
gradually
but like
escalate
even with
this
the way
quick decisive action?
Well, even with the way that he implements tariffs, it's like, okay, you don't like the 50% tariff, China? Well, here's a 100% tariff.
Right.
Right. It's stuff like that. It's escalation until you come to the table, rather than like, all right, we're just going to kill you.
Again, I think that was the idea. There weren't too many like military actions, because I think with the military, it's kind of a toggle switch. It's kind of either on or off. But Trump had been saying for the last several weeks, months really, you've got to come to the table. You've got to give real concessions, or it's going to get bad. And I think that he just wasn't seeing movement. I think they were calling his bluff. I think that they actually thought he was bluffing, like every other president who said similar things. I mean, Obama drew a red line in the sand and then, you know, let them walk all over it. So I think that
didn't they technically have a deal though that Trump backed out of, right? And that's, I mean, honestly, yeah. Trump kind of did set this up.
Obama's red line wasn't with the Iranians. I think it was with, I think it was a different country. But the point is, I think that they were counting on Trump to not hold up his end of the bargain. I think that they felt like it was just hot air. And so Trump finally said, okay, if we're going war, then we're going war, and we'll do it all the way, which I think is the smarter approach.
Well, finishing off this, on February 18th, General Dan Kane proposed both options to President Trump. Before Vance weighed in, Trump was partial to the smaller, limited strike. Kane warned that the second option could drain U.S. munitions and result in American casualties and spiral out of control. And remember, this is the same General Dan Kane that we talked about earlier last week, talking about how, hey, by the way, this excursion into Iran could threaten our limited supply of very valuable, very expensive munitions that we kind of need, right? These are essentially deterrents, right? If we have the best missiles, the biggest missiles, the most beautiful missiles, it's a great deterrent against our adversaries. If you know, and it's widely reported that our stockpiles are down 70% because of an excursion into Iran that we just didn't need, because essentially they weren't doing anything. So, I mean, we could have just let them be annoying for the 3 months.
They were about to.
They were about to. Yeah, but we could have just let them be annoying while we deal with other things or while we build up our munition supply, which again we've needed to do for like a decade at this point.
Yeah,
But
I will say I don't get any of I don't buy into any of the imminent threat arguments. I don't. They just don't ring particularly true to me. It's possible that maybe they were real this time, but in my
maybe.
mind, there's a small chance. In my mind, though, there's been Iran's been a problem for a very, very long time, and I would love to see it, at least the current iteration of the Iranian problems, be removed from the political conversation. So now we can get on to invading Cuba and freeing up some of those Cuban cigars, and then maybe going down to Mexico, and then eventually go and take Canada. Like, I would love to see us get back to focusing on our side of the hemisphere. So let's just kind of,
correct.
Remove Iran from the conversation. So now we can get on to the Don Road auction, just taking over all of North America. And Cuba too, because it's.
And I feel like
close.
that would have a lot more American support to it too. Like
Yeah.
Greenland actually has like logistical considerations for us. It's actually important in terms of defense. Cuba, why do we have a foreign power that has ties to the Trinity of evil 70 miles off of our coast? Like, why do we allow this to happen again? Like, as their economy is collapsing, as their people are starving, like, why are we allowing this to even exist in the first place? Especially, we took Venezuela, essentially, right? And that crashed Cuba's economy because they were heavily reliant upon all of that. And so now it's like, should Cuba be the next step, not Iran? And so I think that there are more important, more pressing matters closer to home, even if I grant the fact that Iran is funding all of the terror cells in the Middle East and possibly in the U.S. as well. Because keep in mind, something to add to that, is that Iran did try and pay people to kill Trump during the 2024 election cycle, right? They had those people in the U.S. that were the bank accounts were linked to noted terror cells from Iran that were receiving funding to kill President Trump, to assassinate him during the campaign trial. So I don't think Trump is a big fan of those guys.
Right. Yeah, I think that there definitely were personal things at play. Yeah, I think that the question that you should ask is, do you feel like America is in a stronger position today or more than yesterday? And do you feel safer today more than yesterday? And, right now, at the beginning of the conflict, the second question could have multiple answers, right? Because depending on what happens with terror cells and strikes, there might be reasons to not feel super safe. But if this does wrap up quickly and well, then I think even if Iran descends into some kind of sectarian chaos that's contained within the state, we're going to be in a better position because they won't be able to fund terror outside their borders as much. And then in terms of U.S. Coming across as stronger on the world stage, I think that basically, assuming that this continues to have a positive course, there's no question that we'll appear stronger. And so to me, that's a clear America first case. Now it all hinges on success, and that's my thing. It's like you were saying earlier. Is it okay if we bomb the Chinese fleet as long as we're successful? To me, kind of yes. Like I think that there's really any military action.
But
I'm
that
okay
does give
with
the
as long
president
as it's
carte blanche,
successful.
right?
Yeah, well,
it goes good. It's like putting everything on black over and over and over and over again.
Right.
I'm still winning. I'm still winning. It's gonna keep winning until it's not.
Yeah,
right?
But that's kind of how I feel. Maybe that's naive, but I just feel like if we start losing, then it is a problem. But as long as we have the ability to carry out our will across the globe, then let's do it and let's use our power for good.
Mm-hmm. Our will is probably the wrong sentiment there because again, we kind of were pushed, even if we just push the timeline up by Israel, right? And that's like, Secretary of State, take that up with Rubio if you don't like that, all right?
Sure.
That's his deal. That's what he said.
Right. Our interest. Is it our interest? Yeah, I agree.
Well, to the stronger argument too, like yesterday or 3 days ago, we had, our maximum amount of munitions stockpiled. We had 3 extra F-15Es. Now it's like, well, we have 3 less of those. We lost 6 service members, and we're using up very valuable munitions that we're not replacing fast enough. So to me, are we stronger today than we were 3 days ago? I would argue no. When it comes to, are we safer? Like, we lost 6 service members. We lost 3 people here to a alleged Iranian terror cell, right? So, it's like, on the whole, I feel it's obviously, proportionally, it's almost nothing when you consider it, right? which is sad to say, but it's like 9 people died. It's nothing. It's barely moves the needle one way or the other. But I mean, it's like, I think you could make an argument that we are weaker just because we lost valuable.
I think you could,
munitions.
but I think that my point is that I think that's the argument that needs to be had.
No.
You know, I think that you could make a case either way. I feel like, I don't know. I think either case is going to be very contingent on future success. It's impossible to really tell how it's gonna pan out, and whether or not we feel stronger or safer right now doesn't actually have any bearing on reality. But if, you know, in a few weeks, things have all continued to go well for us relatively, and we don't use too many munitions and don't put ourselves in a compromised state, then I think we will emerge stronger on the world stage and safer at home. That's my hope. That's what I'm rooting for. And I could be wrong, but right now, as of today, that still seems like a very real possibility, which is why I'm okay with what's going on. Not that they consulted me. No one cares.
No, that's true. The famed geopolitical analysts on this panel tonight did not get consulted in any of this. All right. I mean, I don't really want to argue ideals because that's like not fair, because I could construct like, oh, well, you know, we could have through negotiation like gotten the exact same thing with no casualties and no loss of munitions. But that's, you know, not realistic. That's just pipe dream. Now, it is interesting, though, kind of moving on from this topic a little bit in the same vein, but I don't know Pakistan-Iran relations. I know that the Pakistan government, they labeled Benjamin Netanyahu as an international terrorist. They officially did that. It was like, oh, okay, all right, fair enough. Let's call. I don't really care what you think either, so I'm not really bothered by this. But they did attempt to storm the U.S. embassy. Pro-Iranian protesters breached the outer grounds of the U.S. consulate in Pakistan and torched part of the complex. Now, listen, the Marines are hungry, okay? Every now and again, you have to feed them protesters to keep them happy. And I guess they thought, I mean, they're enemy combatants at that point. And as we'll see in just a second, like, they're not even protesters. They had guns. They were shooting at U.S. soldiers. Congratulations. The prize for that is death, you know, and I'm totally fine with that. But you can see some of the footage here of them. They're inside of the compound. And there's a lot of them. I mean, this looks like I don't know if you played Modern Warfare 2019, but where you play the embassy siege mission.
Oh, it's so great.
Yeah.
That
is a good
13
mission.
hours movie, but
Yep.
in video game. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So, I mean, you can see that there's a lot of them. They're breaking in. They're trying to break through the windows. Here's some additional footage here, courtesy of Mr. Gunson Gear. You can see them fleeing after. Oh, what's that? What's that? Oh, no. It seems like they were not quite the peaceful protesters that broke into a U.S. embassy in Pakistan. Yeah, they tried the FAFO challenge, and they won the grand prize. Grand prize for attacking a U.S. embassy. And you can see some of them are quite bloody, quite beaten up. That guy's shot in the arm. Yeah. And the protesters, yes, my favorite brand of protesters, just like Alex Preddy and Renee Good, my favorite brand of protesters here. But the U.S. Marines shot and killed at least 12 people in Karachi, Pakistan. More than 30 are injured. Where is the international outrage over these U.S. soldiers slaughtering Pakistani protesters? Again, community notes. News reports indicate the injured and dead protesters Code Pink is referring to were fired upon after attempting to storm the U.S. consulate in Karachi, Pakistan. No military action appears to have occurred until the protesters attempted to overrun the consulate. Surprise, surprise, we don't allow you to come in and murder and rape our ambassadors. It's just not allowed. You just don't do it. You know, it's one of those things. If you don't want to get shot and killed, don't storm a U.S. embassy. Ironically, unless you are Iran, and then you successfully take a bunch of hostages. So
that's right.
Awkward. Now, this was just a post from, according to U.S. intelligence, these are the top 28 cities in America that are the highest propensity for terror cells in the U.S. Now, there's a couple of them that were missing. So I don't know if any of these are local to any of you guys. Playfield, Tucson, Oklahoma, Potomac, Herndon, I've never heard of that. Springfield, Arlington, of course, Raleigh, Charlotte, Cleveland, Columbia, Kansas, Fort Lauderdale, Boca Raton, Orlando, Tampa, lots of Florida places, Denver, Detroit, Philadelphia, Dallas, San Diego, Boston, Seattle, Houston, Chicago, San Francisco, Santa Clara, Los Angeles, Washington, D.C., and number 1 is New York. I'm actually really surprised that Minneapolis did not appear on that list for top threat U.S. terror cells, because I thought that would have been higher up, considering, although maybe it's the wrong type of Muslim. It's the wrong type of Middle Eastern. Yeah, it's the wrong type over there. So
yeah, I'm surprised they're not on there, and I'm also surprised that you only mispronounced one of those city names.
Which ones?
You knocked them
Which
out
one?
of the park.
Which one did I miss?
One more.
Fort Lauderdale? Boca
No.
Raton?
I think it may have been Boca. No, what was there one more?
Isn't it Boca Raton? Because I was going to say Raton, but Raton's not correct. Boca Raton. Raleigh, Charlotte, Cleveland, Columbia. I think I got them all. What are you talking about?
Yeah, those
Herndon?
North Carolina ones are close to home.
Yeah. Yeah, but those are, according to U.S. intelligence, those are the top ones for terrorist actions, terrorist cells being activated. Now, speaking
I'm surprised that
terrorists.
Boca Raton is that's a fairly affluent neighborhood area.
Well, the entire city or just parts of the city?
Like the entire area, like the whole city's very, very wealthy area.
Now, talking about Austin, Texas. Now, Austin, Texas, very gay, very, very diverse. You know, has a great music scene, great comedy scene, but the rest of it's not so great. Kind of brings down Texas on the whole. The Austin mass shooter was an American citizen. His name is Niaga Diagan. Diagny?
No, I think the D is silent.
Yeah. Niaga, please. Niaga Diany? Yeah. Anyways, moving on to this absolute tragedy that happened. Now, this is one of those things where I'm like, it's so obvious. It's so on the nose where I'm like, really? Really? So he's wearing a sweatshirt, property of Allah, which ironically enough is a hilarious sweatshirt. Hassan Piker also has the exact same sweatshirt, which is just funny, weird. And then underneath, you can see as he's laying on the ground dead, he has a Iranian flag shirt underneath. Like, could you make it any more obvious? Like, if I was trying to do a false flag or something like that to, you know, say how bad the Iranian terror cells are and how much we need to take them out. Like, this would be like, I need a forehead tattoo that says, Khomeini himself told me to commit mass violence upon his death or something like that. And again, it's also his name. I think I pronounced it correctly. Niaga Diagny, Diagny, whatever it is. I don't know. Okay. But it's definitely Niaga. All right. So Austin bar mass shooter possibly motivated by Iran attacks. Quran found in car. Again, it's just everything. Everything is put together to make it as obvious as possible. Quran found in car as FBI eyes terrorism after 2 killed, 14 injured. The fiend behind, I hate fiends. The fiend behind Sunday's bloodbath at a packed Austin bar was an ex-New York City resident wearing a property of Allah hoodie and possibly out for vengeance over the U.S. attack on Iran, law enforcement source told the Post. Crazed Texas shooter Niag. Okay, I'm going to put this into a like Google Translate and this could tell me how to pronounce this real fast. Or maybe it's not. No, I can't do that. That's fine. 53 of Senegal arrived in the U.S. on March 13th, 2026 years, on a B-2 tourist visa during the Democratic Clinton administration and became a lawful permanent resident, IR6, when he married a U.S. citizen in June 2006, a source familiar with his immigration history told the Post. He then became a naturalized U.S. citizen on April 5th, 2013, around the start of former President Barack Obama's second term, despite his growing rap sheet spanning New York and Texas. On Sunday, the killer had a Quran in his car and was possibly also wearing an undershirt featuring the Iranian flag or other Iranian symbols when he opened fire on Buford's backyard beer garden near the University of Texas Austin campus, according to sources familiar with the investigation. Law enforcement knew him as an emotionally disturbed person in both New York and Texas before Sunday's bloody rampage. I can't believe I mean, I guess technically as a matter of law, if he hasn't done anything egregious enough to get him kicked out before he's able to get a permanent residence and before he gets married and therefore granted a U.S. citizenship in 2013. So he was here for 13 years before he got his citizenship. If he doesn't do anything egregious in those 13 years, enough for us to get him deported. But I feel like, man, you've got to be on your, surely we should be a country where you have got to be on your absolute greatest, bestest behavior to get a permanent residency or a actual American citizenship, right? Surely.
Yeah.
Not have a history of run-ins and disorderly conduct with police in multiple states. I feel like that should just be immediate no. You know, even if it's not something more egregious enough to get you deported, but no, you just can't be an American citizen, dog. Like we don't like, no offense, bro, but we don't like need you specifically enough to overlook your rap sheet, right? He also had a string of previous arrests under his belt in the Big Apple and Texas, sources including a 2022 arrest in the Lone Star State for collision with vehicle damage. In New York City, he notched bus between 2001, the year after he arrived, and 2016, the year he applied for asylum under the waning Obama administration. I'm just going to call him Mr. D. Mr. D was arrested in 2001 for illegal vending. His other 3 city arrests are sealed. I'm not sure why they would be sealed, unless they were just not particularly important, or like after a certain amount of time, they would be erased from his record or something. Sources say details on his Texas bus were not immediately known. Obviously, it's still way too early to tell in the process to determine the exact motivation, but there were indicators. Yes, Quran in the car, property of Allah sweatshirt, Iranian t-shirt on underneath, right? There's a lot of circumstantial evidence here on the subject and in his vehicle that indicate potential nexus to terrorism, said Alex Doran, acting special agent in charge of the FBI's San Antonio office, to reporters. The attack happened about 2 a.m., closing time for the popular night spot, as hundreds of people were leaving to head home. Mr. D's large SUV was spotted traveling around the block several times before he stopped in front of the bar and began shooting out of his window with a pistol, hitting patrons on the front patio, according to Austin Police Chief Lisa Davis. He then parked his car, got out, and began shooting people walking by on the street, the chief said. The police confronted the shooter within less than a minute, which is incredibly lucky that a police officer was essentially there. Right, within 60 seconds of the first gunshot at an intersection on 6th and shot him, cops said. 2 victims and the shooter died at the scene. First responders rushed 14 other patients to nearby hospitals, 3 of whom were in critical condition. Now, we actually do have, this is the alleged image of the man with what looks to be a black rifle of some sort. Not a lot of contrast in that, but you can see. This is the opening shots. And I'm not sure if he needed to reload there, but that is the opening salvo of him just shooting indiscriminately at people in a bar in Austin, Texas. Now, there's actually been some really good reporting been done on this situation in Texas about possible terror cells or just the Islamification of certain areas, which again, we've seen in places like Minnesota or just places around the country where you get these hives, these nexuses of different peoples and cultures. Like, did you watch the video that came out the other day? Who was it by? It's not Nick Shirley, the other guy. I'm forgetting his name. He did the one on the New Jersey Jewish community.
Tyler Oliveira, that's his name. Yes, he did basically a video there where a lot of different communities kind of do the same thing, where they essentially reach a critical mass in a location and kind of change it. They terraform it to fit their culture and their ways, right? So it's like in places in like Dearborn, right, where they have this huge community there, and they have like, you know, their own flags, and they have all this other stuff going on with laws that pertain to them specifically. We see these communities do this all over the country, and unfortunately there's one in this area as well. So Austin jihad shooter reportedly lived in this is another name I'm not going to be able to pronounce. Pflugerville. Okay, there's a P on there for some reason. Pflugerville, Texas, the Sharia beachhead I've been exposing for years.
Reporter Carl Markowitz just dropped the suspect is in this morning's mass shooting. Mr. D, Senegalese-born American citizen, quote unquote, reportedly resided in Pflugerville, Texas. 3 dead, 14 wounded at Buford's backyard beer garden. Quran in his car, Islam-motivated probe underway, possible Iran retaliation ties. This is no coincidence. Pflugerville is the exact suburb I've been sounding the alarm on. My expose, Islamic Center of Pflugerville, Mohammed Majid, expanding aggressively, Pakistani-trained Iman, 1.34 million in shady funds, isolated Sharia enclave, full-time Islamic school, segregated spaces, and sermons demanding halal certification as Sharia economic jihad. Direct quotes from their own pulpit. Promote halal in America. Expand Sharia boards. Demand it. This isn't diversity. It's Hijra. Conquest by settlement. Self-segregated communities breeding radicalism while Texas leaders sleep. Police and FBI investigate Pflugerville now. Look into the mosque. It is time to trace funding. Foreign Islamic money. Terror networks scrutinize every Islamic center there for extremist leaks. No stone unturned. I've been begging Texas and America for 15 years to de-Islamize Texas and de-Islamize America, halt migration from jihadist nations, enforce assimilation, ban brotherhood ops, so on and so forth. Now, she has a full, basically mini documentary on the people of this community, where it is a isolated, like, Muslim center where everything is centered around their way of life and converting and expanding, and possible, dark money funds from other places coming out of the country. So it seems to be funded and set up like a little community, a little cell, if you will, in this random city in America. And it's just like, you wouldn't think of Texas as having like a little Sharia, but they do. And it seems like this man came out of that situation. Yeah. So to me, it seems like this sort of thing is allowed to happen, right? We bring these people in with the pretension that they're going to assimilate, that they're going to, become American in some way, shape, or form. But then they reach a critical mass and they just import their own cultures. They import their own families. Like, why wouldn't they just continue on in their way of life, especially when it comes to Islam? Because it's within their religion to do this. They want to take over your communities. They want to take over your neighborhoods. You will be halal. You will follow us. We will, you won't interrupt us when we pray 5 times a day. We will set up, the big loudspeakers everywhere so that we can, blare our prayers at any time of the night, regardless of whatever laws you have in place on the books. And so it seems to me a natural conclusion of our attacks overseas that we have just huge groups of these people here that are military-aged males and willing to, in their minds, martyr themselves for 72 virgins. So this seems to me to be a natural consequence of our foreign policy and also our home policy, right, of actually just importing these people in the first place. So we're importing these people, which is problematic. They bring their culture, and then we stoke tensions in the Middle East, and then these people hate us. So it seems like we're doing like both of the things
like
that
you
we
could
should
do
be
one
doing.
without the other, though. Like, I agree in concert,
100%,
100% are a problem, but I'm not sure. Like, I think if you just stopped the importation, then who cares what we do overseas? Then they wouldn't be
correct. Well, that would be my point. But the thing is that we do both of those things, right? We do both of them together, and instead of getting, I guess, the best of one world where we're allowed to impose our will halfway across the world without consequence to our own people, we do that, but then we import more of them. Like, this is usually what happens, right? So it's like we destabilize Somalia and some of these other places, and then you get immigrants, or they call them refugees, flooding into Europe. Then again, eventually they come to America. It's like we have how many 250,000 Somalis living in communities in the state over from me. We have a bunch living in Sioux Falls, which is like 45 minutes from me. We have a few thousand there. And they create their own little community. So if we just stopped, it's like one side is like, hey, we're going to go fight wars that creates all these problems. And then the other side of the aisle is like, we're not going to fight the wars, but we are going to bring all the people here. And it's these two sides that are always fighting together. Well, ostensibly against each other, but they're fighting at the detriment of the American people, right? That's my problem. And unfortunately, we traded Mr. D, as he's referred to, for a Texas A&M student. He was like 22 years old, in a STEM field, I want to say, very young man, tragically lost his life in the attack for, again, no benefit to the American populace whatsoever, which I think is tragic.
Yeah. Well, stay strapped, fellas.
Absolutely. Well, we are going to get to some port. James, if you are busy or you want to hang out or do other things, like, okay. Don't want to keep you on longer than you want. All right.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, we're going to get to your guys' support, and then we have a bit of a wholesome story, okay? Before we get to rage bait, we have Kim Jong-un having a wonderful daddy-daughter date, testing out their military's new, allegedly home-produced sniper rifles. So that'll be a nice little change of pace. Lena Mitchellix, North Starfish for 2, says, calling it now 10 minutes late. Well, I think we started the stream basically perfectly 10 minutes late. So you guessed it. I don't know what your prize is, but thank you. Amorai Boy for 2 says, late and gayer than BB's wars. Did you see that BB went to Germany? I saw that floating around. Is that I forget what the name of their Air Force One is, but that was spotted in Germany somewhere. So it's like he's fleeing Israel during the attacks to go to Germany for safety. And to me, it's just like, it's like the irony of all of this. You're fleeing Israel to go to Germany for safety. Yeah. Like,
not historically a safe place for Jews. I don't know if you guys are history buffs or not, but
Polly for 10 says the Strait of Hormuz is open. CENTCOM's Baghdad Bob moment. Yeah. Well, listen, they don't have any fleet in the area anymore. So their ships are at the bottom of the Gulf of Oman. Thank you, Polly. Thank you for the 10. Chud for 2 says, Richard Gassy. Also, let's be good boys for Illinois. I don't know what Illinois has to do with this, but thank you. I know that that's supposed to be the Israeli flag, but on StreamYards, it just pulls up the IL. Zanico for 5 says, Jay Trippy. Never been called that before. That's new. Jay Trippy. I am in need of that Mark Full Leopold. God bless everyone, even the Jewish Jake. Jake is not Jewish. How dare you? But thank you, Zanico. You're not gonna be able to afford that Mark IV Leopold if you keep spending super chats here, bro. Gotta cut you off. Red Heathen from Texas, member for 7 months, says, Richard, jump scare. Choose a random PFP. Did you jump scare the audience, Richard? Or is it just...
I didn't mean to.
Oh, okay. I don't know if you accidentally flashed your face again, like that other time. Thank you, Heathen.
Maybe I did. I may have.
I don't know.
Hope not.
Sorry, Jake. You're catching strays already, bro. You're not even here to defend yourself. Rism with the Tism for 2 says, get better. Dry fire. True. Rism with the Tism. Yeah, dry fire. I have I dry fired twice today. Pistol and rifle. Trying to get my rifle skills up to par. Lightsport for 2 says 3 F-15s also get hit on a blue on blue. Everyone's okay. Yeah, we talked about that. And apparently I was woefully underestimating the cost of those things. I was thinking they were just a few $1 million each, considering we've been producing them since the 1980s, right?
Oh, yeah.
Apparently not $100 million, dude. Damn. It's like, what does an F-35 cost? F-35 doesn't even cost $100 million, does it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like,
I think an F-35
like
literally costs $1 million
billion.
just to run a sortie.
No. Not, sorry, I looked up F-35 cost and it said $2 trillion. That's the program cost, not the per plane cost. Per plane, $80 million for the A version, $100 million for the B version, and then $100 million for the C version. So $80 to $100 million. Why are 40-year-old planes as expensive as an F-35? That's my question. Maybe we should look into that. That's insane. Thank you, Lightspore. Appreciate that. Everyday American for 5 says Tucker Carlson claims Dubai and Qatar caught Mossad agents trying to plant bombs in their countries. Interesting. I saw his coverage of that today, alleging that Mossad agents were planting bombs in some of these neighboring countries. I have not seen that verified anywhere at all. And
Tucker says a lot of things.
Tucker Carlson is an intelligence asset. I don't know whose side he's working on, but he's absolutely an intelligence asset. Yeah. So maybe listen, I wouldn't put it past him. Okay, but it could also be just Tucker Carlson doing his thing. Thank you, Everyday American. I just want to see a source. That's all. And again, it's like, who do you believe these days? That's the problem. Do you believe your own media? Like, no, of course not. Do you believe Israel's media? No, of course not. Do you believe Iran's media? No, of course not. It's like, I don't know, take your pick. I believe online schizos, and that's it. Heathen from Texas for 20 says, I must confess, before I left work on Friday, I was complaining that life was boring, and I was asking for zombies, alien invasion, or something to happen for some excitement. Only to then, here we are, that we started a war with Iran. Yes, yes, indeed. Well, here you go. You get the wonderful Ben Shapiro for your troubles. only seconded by this one. Well, hopefully, Heathen from Texas, it goes back to being boring, and it is actually just 2 weeks to flatten Tehran, and it is actually, not a prolonged engagement that spirals out of control.
When you played that Shapiro clip earlier, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
I was sitting here in absolute silence, and I didn't know he was even there, and he just played full blast. I was like, oh my God.
Cody for 10 says, tears of joy watching the dome of not so iron fail, me mum many lampshade. Well, I don't even know if you're supposed to be happy about that, because it's just like, it's taking out infrastructure in Israel. So even if you're somebody who wants to, like, you're like, okay, Israel needs to be removed from the face of the planet. It's like an apartment complex got hit with nobody in it. So, I mean, you're not even getting what you want. It's just spectacle. That's it. Thank you, Cody. CM Scar for 5 says, not gonna lie, the Jackal 9 is pretty damn sweet. Nah, I'm not gonna read the rest of that. Get out. Just kidding. Sweet. And what's the best budget 9mm can? God bless, gents. Well, God bless you. Well, I only have this one, and it's really cheap. It's the tuna can 9mm. You can get them for like $1.99. They're dirt cheap. I gotta go shoot that tomorrow. I don't know. What do you want? What do you want in a can? Are you shooting subsonics, not pistol? I mean, I imagine you're just PCC, so back pressure is not really that big of a deal. James, any thoughts on 9mm cans?
No, I don't have any. I want one for an MPX that I have. So is the one you have any good?
The tuna can is fine, but it's just cheap, right? So it's aluminum stacked baffles, and that's it, right? So they're the screw-end kind.
Gotcha.
And you like, this one is the big one, so it came with 13. So I think technically this one MSRP is for like $2.99 because it's like 12 inches long. It starts here and ends all the way out here. So
is aluminum gonna, I mean, because it's 9mm, I know the pressures are a lot lower. Is that sufficient, or do you typically want a much stronger material?
I think that's going to be fine, because there's also so many baffles. So if one of my baffles started to wear out, I would just replace it as the blast baffle. So I would just put another one in front, and you never need to run 13 baffles. You could run like 10. You could run 7 and literally have half of the baffles saved over just for longevity purposes. But yeah, good luck out there. Tarke for 10 says, Ko-Fi doesn't want to take my card right now, so Raja Mahan gets a cut. Fits with the bottle of black pills I've been trying not to reach for. At least the MP5 works. True. Well, it's not, there's never a black pill, right? There's definitely rage bait, but there's no black pills, because in the end, Christ wins, and we just have to be willing to do our duty in the here and now. I think that's, one of the things that makes life easier for me is not caring about how I personally feel about things, right? Disassociating from yourself. So it's like, okay, life is going great. Fantastic. Wonderful. Life is going bad. Fantastic. Wonderful. I'm really sore today. I don't care. I'm going to the gym. I feel great today. Great. I'm going to the gym, right? If you just don't care about how you feel about things and you just do, I feel it's like retard maxing, right? Stop thinking, just do the things you're supposed to do.
Which is the opposite of despair, which is just caring and not doing. It's right. You feel that doing is so pointless that you just stop doing and you just start caring over and over. And that's all that you do is you just, it's so depressing out there. And despair is actually a sin. So, yeah, you got to
well, and it's like,
positive.
I know people who their life is bent around spikes of motivation. And that's when they do things. And that's it. And they have thrown away insane amounts of potential by just not like doing the thing, right? They got caught up in their own mind. They overthink things. They don't just do. And so they sit upon this huge potential, this whatever it might be in whatever field, and they just waste it, right? By just not doing the thing, And it's not necessarily Stoic philosophy, though there is some Stoic philosophy within Christianity for sure, about not concerning yourself with what happens tomorrow, or this other stuff. You can be aware, you can be like generically concerned, but to allow it to rule your life is giving control of your life to outside forces, right? Like if you get enraged by everything you see on the TV, you're sad by everything you see on X or whatever it might be, you're allowing other people to manipulate your emotions at will, which is problematic. Don't do that. That's right. Jimmy loves and gets it. Yes. F it, we ball. Always. Loose meats and Mitch, stop describing me. Listen, I knew a lot of guys in college and after who had vast amounts of potential and never lived up to it. Never lived up to it. Everyday American for 5 says, of course we have enough bullets. This is all theater to try and propagandize the enemy. We wouldn't publish this if it was true. Maybe
I wondered
it's a
that as
disinformation
well.
campaign.
Yeah,
it's possible.
It does seem like an odd misinformation campaign, because you're putting out there that you're weaker than you actually are, thus inviting other people to take advantage of your weakness, perhaps getting you into a war that you don't want to get into. So it seems like a weird way to propagandize. So that's the biggest reason why I think that there might be some validity to this one. But it occurred to me earlier as well that you really can't trust anything like this. This could totally just be, some form of propaganda.
I mean, the one thing that I would caution against with that is, like, American manufacturing just is what it is, So if we can produce, like, I feel like if we were being told, oh, we can only produce like 12 of these interceptors a month, somebody would be like, by the way, we have like 6 million of these in a warehouse over here. So that's obviously not true, right? I feel like that would just be something easily disprovable. It's like, well, you say we can only make 12 a month, but we have, umpteen gazillion of them in inventory. So that just cannot be true. But again, they could totally be overblowing it as a way of disinformation. Everyday American for 5 says, what do we think about Iran shooting a missile at San Diego as they claim? It's World War III if one of those actually hit stateside. That I don't know if that's possible, right? Because I know that they allegedly do have the hypersonic missiles that have a range of like 5,000 miles or something. But can they actually hit continental U.S.? That would be wild. I mean, I think it would be a much easier way to get us into like actual boots on the ground, we're going to kill you now, if they just hit a carrier. The problem with hitting a carrier for them is they probably have no intelligence about where they actually are, right? They know generically where they are, but they can't get drones close enough, to detect them before they're going to get shot down by countermeasures or something. So I just don't know if they're like looking to try and hit something like that, but they just physically can't, right? They're not just going to launch a missile into no man's land and hope it hits a target.
Yeah, the loss of an aircraft carrier would be much more devastating to me than the loss of San Diego or San Francisco.
That's actually true, because we only have what 11, and
Right.
3 of them are in like cooldown mode at any point in time. 3 of them are in like workup, and then like 4 or 5 are active, and we have 2 of them in Iran right now. I think 6 are active at any point in time. Thank you, Everyday American. Amrite Boy for 5 says, look at the live sub titled Long Range Munitions Production. It's a Alex Holdings clips. It covers this exact same issue. I think I watched that earlier, but let me pull that up real fast. I'm pretty sure he says the exact same thing, though, that we have an issue with our okay, so he's just claiming that we're ramping up our munitions, like doubling, tripling, quadrupling our long-range munition capabilities. So that's his claim, and that's just a random TikTok. But thank you, Right Boy. So he claims that we are currently ramping up, which would lend to the idea that we are low and do need to improve if we're going to maintain a sufficient level of stock.
We ramped up shell production in 2022 as well, so.
Well, but that was more for Ukraine, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Everyday American for 5 says Netanyahu's military-aged son is hanging out peacefully in Florida, by the way. Actually not that hard to find. That's not appropriate to say in that tone. But I mean, I think
seen people just referring to the fact that the
I do not
was...
believe that is how he what he was meaning by that. I believe that was highly inappropriate. Don't infer something like that. C Runner for 2 says, why did Focus have HU live on tonight? James is not, I mean, he is a liberal, of course, very lefty, very progressive.
Yeah. As
but I mean, come on, he's not. Yeah, we got.
There were other comments. Someone was saying, "Does James even see the comments?" Yes, I see all of your comments. I see all of your hate, and I chose to be here. I volunteered. I don't know why, but no, I find it very amusing.
Chud for 2 says, born in time to die in Iran and replaced by an Indian. Listen, all right, no boots on the ground. Well, actually, boots on the ground hasn't been ruled out, but that's because, Trump never likes to rule out any option. Because why would you, as a negotiation tech? Although, who are they negotiating with? I saw that there was one report, again, who knows about these reports are true or not, that the guy that they had picked to take over the regime, the U.S. did, they accidentally killed.
Well, yeah. Trump says something like that. It's
yeah. Well, we had a
guy. There's some trash talking there, though. It's like, oh, man, we're too effective. We accidentally killed more people.
So effective. We're killing the people we're trying to replace them with. It's crazy. Josh for 5 says, why did Iran attack Israel? Yeah, that was like the #1 tweet of the day or something, was somebody saying Israel has a right to self-defense, and then somebody just quote tweeting them and saying like, who attacked first, and Grok answering them. Like, actually, Israel's first. Everyday American 5 says, with the Hormuz Strait being closed off, China's oil supply will be cut. That's why we took Maduro to secure an oil supply in our hemisphere. Well, again, I think taking Venezuela the way it did, because it worked out perfectly, and it completely nuked Cuba's economy as well. So Cuba is like primed for the taking, essentially. But yeah, removing the flow of energy from Venezuela, from Iran to Russia and to China. I mean, it's actually, in a way, it's good for Russia, because that means they're one of the bigger players now, with another competitor essentially removed. So while they're ostensibly allies with Iran, if America is sending munitions to Iran and the other people are now having to go to them for oil, it actually kind of works out better, considering they need oil to be more expensive so that their economy gets better, so that they can fund their own war. So it works in a couple ways for them, right? They get less munitions sent to Ukraine because they're used up in Iran, and oil prices go up. So honestly, they would be ecstatic. They would be ecstatic if the Qatari oil fields got hit, which Iran was threatening to do, and they haven't done that yet. So thank you, Everyday American. Vandalay for 2 says, 2 weeks to flatten the curve, guys. We hope not. We hope not. Ken for 5 says, what pisses me off is I feel like we could end this in an instant through force, but get no sense of urgency from our leaders. I mean, we exerted a lot of force on Tehran. Like, Tehran is a very smoky right now. All right, it looks like a apocalypse in there right now. So we're definitely doing things, but I don't know what the end state is now. Like, what do we do now? Now that they're enraged, do we just wait for them to use up their munitions and then be like, all right, are you gonna talk now, or like what? Or do we just flatten it?
Talk with who?
Whoever is the new leader, guy, right? Like,
I would like to see some more communication in terms of what the plan is now. Like, okay, great, we wiped out the heads of state. Okay, what happens next? Cool. Take out as many munitions as you can. Take out all the rockets. Like, decapitate them militarily and from a leadership perspective. But then, I mean, at that point, it seems like you just back out or move out. So what is the reason to stay? And if we are staying any longer than a week or two, then that needs to be communicated clearly to the American people. I haven't really seen.
Well,
maybe it's too early to make that the complete case. Maybe we're still trying to figure out exactly how long we need to be there to do whatever we need to do. But I would just like to hear a little bit more in terms of what that actually is supposed to look like. And yeah, because I don't even know how to hold them accountable if we don't even know what they're trying to do. Like, what are the objectives?
Well, right now they're just hitting everybody, any target they can. They're just sending missiles at everyone. But I wonder if they're like poking the Iranian people, like, hey, could you guys take over your government now? Like, that'd be cool. If they're just waiting for that to happen,
Yeah,
like,
I get the sense that there's some of that.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like these people are under martial law, and if you take their own numbers, right, like 30 to 40,000 of them have been killed for protesting. I mean, 90 million people in the country, they absolutely could overthrow their own government, of course. However, do the Iranian people have the stomach or the will to overthrow their own government, lose 100,000 people in the process after being attacked by Israel and America, right? Does that actually hurt the cause when now you have potentially 1,000 dead civilians in Tehran because of American missiles, right? I mean, I don't know, because like I hate my own government, right? But if a foreign power started launching missiles here, I'd suddenly be a lot, I'd be like, we got bigger problems to deal with right now than that, right? We have foreign adversaries now. So I don't know.
I don't know. The Iranian people are supposedly a very proud people. I mean, these are the Persians, right? Many of them still refer to themselves as Persians, and tie their history all the way back to Darius,
Latinas
and Cyrus,
of the Middle East,
and yeah, I mean, these, so it is a proud historical nation that it'd be cool to see, an actual uprising where they kick the terrorists out. I'm not holding my breath.
Yeah, I mean, is there a historical example of a nominally Muslim country kicking Muslims out of control?
Yeah, I mean,
not
Spain
by
would be
force,
the closest thing, but they weren't
but
really.
we forced
They were
them
never.
out. Yeah, that was not consensual.
Right. No, it wouldn't be consensual. No matter what, I don't think it's going to be consensual. Yeah, I think there's not a single instance.
But also, like, the Spanish population was a minority Muslim population, which is a little different, I think, than Iran. Although, again, Iran is like nominally Muslim, right? It's like you have a Muslim government and you have to adhere to certain things. But again, 1970s and before, they were like a pretty Western country, all things considered. So, Focus Dream Gunner for 2 says James yaps more than Richard, but I love Richard.
I love you too, Ben.
Well, I have people on to talk, That's the point of coming on. Everyday American for 2 says suspiciously happy female Jew who was involved. I don't know who he's referring to there.
Maybe she's just the pilot, the female pilot that got shot down.
Yeah, the female pilot seemed to be in good spirits, but listen, if you had just gotten shot down, the worst thing that you could possibly happen to you as a pilot, you eject, insane rush, you land basically uninjured. There's like adrenaline and everything else is going, and then just random hillbillies in their truck find you essentially, and you're just like, it's like, all right. I feel like laughing or being a little off kilter is totally normal in that scenario, especially if you know that it was like an accident that you got shot down, and you're just thinking in the back of your mind, like, how am I supposed to explain this? I just lost $100 million jet. I don't know where my co-pilot's at. And here's a farmer picking me up in his truck. Like, hi, how's it going?
Saying you had cramps and you felt like your period was coming on, John. You used the card.
Chud for just, we're very good at anti-air. Yes, very good. We took out all Iranian fighter jets in our airspace. Oh, those weren't Iranian. Jury Seller for 5 says Tucker said massage agents arrested in UAE, Saudi for planning or for planting bombs. Again, yeah, I saw that claim. I have not seen any confirmation, and maybe the UAE or Saudi officials confirmed that was the case, but again, I have not seen that. Because I mean, you could claim it's Mossad and it could just legitimately be an Iranian terror cell activating in a country, right? Sean Weiland for 2 says, do you feel in charge? Bane to Rubio. Yeah, more like BB to Rubio. Thank you, Sean. Todd and Dogs for 2 says, Ritter says Ayatollah didn't want nukes. Now he's dead. Yeah. Hilter Lover 1488 says, sure, James, because Israel would never false flag us. Well, there's always a potential for a false flag operation within the U.S. or with it abroad. Why'd you just change your thumbnail? Anyways,
who changed?
There's always that potential. Richard did. Sorry. There's always a potential there for that.
Someone requested it on here and said they sent one on Ko-Fi. So
I mean, I'm curious, James, what you think about that. Do you think there's potential for a false flag, or that sort of event is likely?
Are we talking about the terror attack here, or what are we talking about? What was this in reference to?
Any false
Just
flag?
in
I'm not.
general.
It was about an hour ago, or about 45 minutes ago. So
I mean, I think the false flag accusation is it's certainly possible. I think that it usually is one of the less likely explanations, if you're just going by the data. But you know, I think that any situation, any real life event is going to have a few things that you can call out that are going to look suspicious. And so, like, this guy having all of his ducks in a row in terms of I am clearly, doing this for Iran. Yes, does it seem a little bit overkill? Sure, but also there's a easy explanation for that. If he really was just trying to make sure he gets his 72 virgins and wants to make sure that Allah hears him, and it's like he's just getting all of his ducks in a row. That seems like a more likely explanation than false flag. So are false flags possible? Absolutely, but usually it doesn't seem like the most likely explanation. But I don't know.
well, I mean, false flags have been used in the past, and maybe not even false flag is not the right word, but events allowed to happen, like, because you can allege that we knew that the Japanese were going to attack in World War II and decided to move our aircraft carriers out, but allow them to attack the mainland to get us into war. The burning of the Reichstag in Germany was a false flag, right? Designed to get Hitler into power, right? Of course.
I mean, the taking of Texas, as well as pretty much all of the western half of the United States from Mexico, was largely due to a kind of false flag event with when we were south of the
So I mean,
Rio
they're
Grande. So it
useful
certainly
events,
happens.
right?
Yeah, it is.
Sean Weiland from 5 says, does fighting a war with Iran make it easier or more difficult for us to re-immigrate 70 million illegals from our homeland? Priorities. Well, see, this is the problem, and why I'm always like really hesitant with any of these foreign entanglements, because it just seems the pattern holds true that we get into a foreign entanglement and somehow bring them here. Like somehow that just ends up happening, right? And so now there's a possible positive side, is that there's like 1 million Iranians living in America that want to re-immigrate themselves back to Iran but can't. Right? They have a large diaspora in Europe, in America, some other places. So that is a possible upside if there is a regime change and like a semi-democratic institution in Iran, is that some people might just return because it's their homeland and because they want to go back. However, it could also, the flip side could happen where we get a bunch of them here for some reason, right? Because they're refugees. Of course, even though we bombed them, we made them refugees. What are you talking about?
Unless the argument is for political capital, that it's now that we're at war, it's harder to do the ICE thing because now we're expending too much political capital. Maybe there's a case there. Although really, I think that distractions often help in politics, whereas like having one thing take precedence in the news will actually make the ICE a lot easier if we were just able to kind of professionally carry out our deportations without raising a big hubbubaloo. Then I think that would be great. Other than that, though, I'm not really clear on what the connection would be. It seems like we can do both. We can do two things at once. I don't know why one has to take away resources from the other, considering the fact that they're completely different departments. And
right, it's not like you can use the U.S. Navy to take.
Exactly.
Well, you could, right?
But you probably shouldn't.
Probably should. Yeah. IG 8857 for 10 says, I don't know, dog. I just saw something where Al Qaeda was calling for ISIS and other extreme groups to take up arms against Iran. I mean, who's really the founder of terrorists? Well, yeah, it's a very muddy history in the Middle East of who actually funds and started these things, right? Because ISIS had a Mossad member as part of their founding, which is a little awkward, right? Listen. All of these people in the Middle East are all funding terrorism, and they're all trying to use it to destabilize their neighbors, okay? And in the game of politics, it's whoever does it the best. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
I just appreciate the dad joke of the Middle East has a muddy history.
Well, I didn't even mean it like that, but it, sometimes it just lines up that way. Caveman from 5 says, America first, we got our own problems. That I agree with, right? But I think we could do, like James was saying, I don't know why one would necessitate necessitate why they would be mutually exclusive. No. Thank you, Caveman. Appreciate it. Caveman for 2 says, I voted for no new wars. Well, we'll see, right? We'll see. Over on Rumble, I should get to these real fast before I forget. Scrolling back so far, found it. Necrohole for 5 says, are you winning Millennium Challenge 2026, son? 2026 is an interesting year. Perhaps the most, well, not the most interesting year, but one of the most interesting years so far. Considering we're only 3 months in, barely 3 months in to 2026, and we've had a lot of things happen. Yeah. Now, Baseball Kid for $20 on Rumble says to play the Jake Feet video in full.
Do it.
In full. It's 30 seconds long.
Do it.
Funny, this is song of the summer shit. You know it's funny. Walk on stage with no shoes on. All I need is feet, boy, I'm too gone. Hey, Jake money, big toe money. This is song of the summer shit. You know it's funny. Walk on stage with no shoes on. All I need is feet, boy, I'm too gone. My feet feel good. Your feet where they should. Y'all just sitting in the grass with a cigarette. Jake money, big toe money. That's a bigger check. Walking in, everybody's.
I've never even listened to the full thing before, bro. Were you putting something away?
What? Oh, no. Sorry.
What?
I just had to
adjust your
zip up my fly. Yeah.
He's adjusting his pants. Unbelievable. Goes, though. Thank you, Jake. Thank you, Baseball Kid. I hope that was worth it. Damn. $20, 30 seconds. What is that? $40 a minute. $240 an hour. It's not bad. C-Runner for 5 says, the measured millennial man who isn't offensively racist and J-pilled are some of the most numb-brained among us. Oddly, they're usually good community men. How do I put this? You want people to be good at different things, right? So, like, you can't ask me to be your construction worker or your engineer or stuff like that. I just can't do that. I'm not good at it. I'm not smart enough. At the same time, you can't ask your engineer to be like your geopolitics guy, which you can't ask me to be that either, right? But they're just different fields. People don't need to have the exact same opinions and expertise. Everybody has their own special area where they're really good at. James, how do you respond to that?
I mean, I think that's true. Yeah, I think that I'm encouraged when I meet people that aren't particularly into politics, assuming they're not idiots. Some people are just like oblivious, but some people just, they have more important things to do with their lives. And, assuming that their other ideas, their principles are relatively based, then I don't really take an issue with that. I think there's actually a lot of wisdom to recognizing that you have more important things to do at home, and you worrying about the events of the world are not going to change them one way or the other. So like, I listen to news podcasts every day. I don't really know that I get actual value from that. I think it's just kind of something to do to pass the time.
Brain stimulation, because I do the same thing. It's kind of like I've absorbed some information, but it's kind of like it's like cotton candy, kind of.
Right.
There's not much there.
So I think there's a lot of wisdom to just being a good dad, just being a good community.
Yeah, it's
member.
Like, do I ask my local congregation at church to be, the farmer in the church? I'm like, hey, what's your opinion on, the global stock market, or what do you think the interest rate should be? It's like they don't need to be that, right? They don't need to be concerned with these things, right? And got to remember too, we're talking to terminally online people. Okay, this is like what we do 24/7, basically. Some of us, especially me, because I stream too much. But I don't ask. Normies are a good thing. I don't look down on normies at all. Normies are a good thing. You want like 90% of your population to be normies. In a perfect world, right? It's like you have the people doing the thing that need to do the thing, and then everybody else just makes society run in a good manner, right? And they just do their jobs, whatever that might be, Now, it might take a lot to get to that point, but yeah. Castigar for 2 says, why are all these military-aged males 120 pounds? Just skinny people. Like, I mean, I don't know.
Malnutrition.
They literally called them skinnies in Somali, right? Just small frames, okay? Everyday American for 10 says, I can't help but feel like the Marines and Rangers are absolutely hungry to go into Iran and see some combat. Every combat dude I've ever talked to or heard say how much they wanted to get after it. This is true, but this is why you don't want everybody in your society to be these guys, right? Because when you're a hammer, everything starts to look like a nail, right? And as much as like some of these guys, they're great dudes. They're great at what they do. They want to do their job, and that's it. They are born to do this. But like at the same time, I can't just let them off the leash to do whatever they want to do because it's going to cause damage to everybody else, right? So there's like this separation. Like everybody has their job to do, and it has to be done at the right time. So not everybody needs to be like, you know, J-pilled or whatever it is, or because then you get into purity spirals of like, you're not racist enough to be in this conversation.
What does J-pilled mean? Why haven't I heard about that?
J-pill just means like the JQ.
Oh,
the Jewish question.
Gotcha.
Right. Or like, you know, racist
Gotcha.
or whatever euphemism you want in there. Zanico for 5 says, was going to take my wife to Chicago to see Shane Gillis in a month. Bad idea. We're an hour away in Indiana. Well, I've never been to Chicago. I just know people don't like it very much. And it's not like particularly safe, but Shane Gillis is funny.
Chicago's nice depending on what time of year you go there. You said in a month.
In a month?
It's still going to be pretty cold, I would think.
Pretty
but
cold.
yeah, it could be fine.
Yeah.
That's a nice
Thank you, Zanico. I mean, yeah, if you want to go see a comedy show, go in, go out. Don't walk around, you know, the suburbs at night. You'll be fine, right? Everyday American for 2 says, little girls are also the property of Allah. Yeah, but see, there's so many problems that we have here that we're not like really allowed to discuss, because if I was going to take a hardline stance on this, the appropriate Christian stance, I think personally, is that there should not be a single mosque in the U.S. That we should not allow that. That's my hardline stance on it, because Islam, when you look into it, is anti-Christian. It's a religion of Antichrist, right? Religion of demons. We don't worship the same God, no matter what the Pope says. I did drop those links in the Redoubt chat.
Yeah.
About the Pope's comments, if we do want to talk about that at some point. But yeah, no. Islam will allow you to rape a girl as long as she's had her first period, which could be as early as 3 years old in some extreme cases, and that is completely legal within Islam. And I have no interest in allowing that sort of cancer to spread in my home country, right? I know that's a really hard stance. I know that people aren't going to agree with that, but I mean, that's my position, right? Yeah, and that doesn't mean I have Muslim friends that talk to me, you know? I have Quran only people in the chat. Is Quran Thumb here tonight? Who's a Quran only Muslim? We talk to them, you know, it's like, you know, but I don't agree with your worldview at all. And I don't want your worldview to infest my communities, right? Because like Sioux Falls is like, which is only 45 minutes away from me, is maybe only 10 years from having a similar issue to like Minneapolis or Dearborn or some of these other places if we just continue to import these people. And I think a way to stop that from happening nationwide is just to not allow you to be here, right? You know, you can say that that's mean, but it's like, do Muslims have a right to the country? Like, no.
I mean,
you know,
some do if they're citizens and they
not
convert.
Foreign, not
right. No, foreign, absolutely not. But like, we can't just.
And we've only imported them, like physically imported them, and then they've spread. Because Islam spreads through birth. There's very few conversions. Very few conversions.
Right. Yeah. No, I get it. Trust me, I'm very anti-Islam. I don't think there's such a thing as Islamophobia, because that would imply that you could have an irrational fear of Islam.
A rational fear of people who have done the same thing for 1,400 years. Right. It's wild.
It's pretty rational at this point. There's a lot of data. Yeah, it is a little tricky to know how to balance the freedoms that we value here and something like that, where it is a religion, but I agree, it is antithetical to Christianity, and we're a Christian nation, and so I your point is well taken. I'm not sure exactly how practically to
it's
go
rough,
about it,
right? It's rough, yeah, exactly. That's the hard part. I have the stance. How do I go about that? No idea, dude. Art Vandalay says total. We get it, Mr. D. Zanico, member for 5 months, says, speaking of Rhodesia, grabbed a foul kit from Apex. Cool. You know, fouls aren't my thing. I get the Rhodesia meme and people like, you know, clone them, freedom fighters, so on and so forth. But yeah, I just don't like inferior weapon systems. Thank you, Sadie. ISO for 5 says, having a Quran in your car doesn't strike me as very weird. I had a pocket Bible in my car for years, and I'm not even nearly as devout as I should be. No, oh my gosh, Richard. No, I get that, and it makes sense, right? If he's part of this Muslim community that wants to carry out this jihad inside of America, then like it makes sense for him to have all of these things, and so maybe it's just a logical conclusion of like what he's planning to do. He wants to promote the Prophet Allah. He wants to be a martyr. He wants, or sorry, Allah's not a prophet, right? He wants to promote Islam. He wants to become a martyr. He wants to also have a pro-Iranian stance in there. So he has the shirt on and he has a Quran in his car because he's a devout Muslim. All of those things totally possible just based on his worldview, based on where he was, all that sort of stuff. But it's also like, you know, it's like every little possible facet. Like if I was designing something, it would be all of that. It's like, how can I get Allah, Iran, and the Quran in there somehow, basically? So, I mean, totally within the realm of possibility, though. Amrai Boy for 2 says, longer life of the airframe for the new F-15s versus F-35s. Ah, man, B-52, what do we got? 60 years on that? 70 years on that? It's going to be in service for a century. We're going to have an airplane in service for a century. Thank you, Amrai Boy. I don't know why you guys won't stop sending in super chats, but if you could, we could actually get to the rest of the show. Blue Animal for 5. Thank you for your generosity, by the way. You guys are extremely kind. Jesus Christ be praised. I'm a few streams behind, so I'll have to catch up to this one. Wanted to update that my balloon knot is fully healed. See, Blue Animal, I thought you were Subarctic Psycho, but you're not Subarctic Psycho. So we had 2 individuals talking about their balloon knots taking damage because Subarctic Psycho had a hemorrhoidectomy, which is where they cut out a chunk of your butt to remove a hemorrhoid, which sounds miserable, right? And then Blue Animal, his balloon knot suffered a issue of some sort. We don't have any details on that, but I'm glad to hear that it's healed up. You Blue Animal. Lightspore says, Florida, you say? No, Lightspore. Get it out for 2 says they got the old guys next in line by 3 is the one. See, this is the problem where it was so specific to a certain part in the stream that I don't know what you're referring to here, Gep.
I mean, it's mostly about the succession in Iran.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, they killed his granddaughter, which sucks. She was 14 months old. Yeah. But, I mean, it's just you're striking to take out the leader, just has the granddaughter in the house.
Hey, what's the deal on, was there a school that was hit?
There was an Iranian girls' school that was hit, yes.
Yeah, so that was actual news.
And again, we hope that was not intentional and it was just a product
supposedly
of...
Supposedly there was a military target nearby or something. But
hopefully. They were storing bombs in the basement. I don't know.
Yeah,
dude.
I
think there were future terrorists hiding in the building.
That's right.
Thank you, Get It Out. Which, I mean, the Israeli, their public relations guy, something, was like, yeah, all children in Gaza are future terrorists. And it's like, technically a possibility, but that law leads you to some pretty dark places, bro.
Yeah.
He also said that any Christians in Gaza that were left in their churches deserved to die as martyrs.
Nice.
That was a while back. Oh, here we go. Leaked image of the next Ayatollah in line to take the seat.
Oh, yes, of course. Hiding his identity, which is wise. Looks familiar, but hiding his identity. Over on Ko-Fi, Carry Handle becomes a Ko-Fi caffeine creep. Andrew says for $33.
We're going to have to come over to your house and kill you. No 2 ways about it.
33, Mason confirmed, says, any thoughts on who to send a slide to for optics cut? Stonebridge Gunworks, is that the one? They do optics cuts. I have optics on my 365 XL and Fuse and my MR920, and now I want my CZ-P10C cut for one because I love the trigger and I need a reason to carry it more. Hashtag tally over Rex, but she is still awesome. He is still awesome. Yeah, I mean, Rex's best girl. I just don't know what to tell you about that. Rex's best girl. And Crisis King. Crisis King, sir. Appreciate that. Yeah, Stonebridge Gunworks, I know, does optics cuts. I thought the P10Cs came optics cut. The new comped ones. I mean, I'm sure they're good guns, but I'm shocked that modern firearms still in 2026 are not optics cut from the factory for a dedicated, like, concealed carry firearm. Like, please. Subarctic Psycho for 10 says, John, I need another 16-inch mid-length gas upper. Tell me how your Krieger is better than BCM. Convince me to buy it. My paycheck is coming soon. Well, it's the same cost with a barrel that is far superior, in my opinion. The Cold Hammer Forged Chrome Line barrels are the best, second best on the market, depending on who you ask. I prefer the CMT rail over the BCM. The bolt carrier group is the same. The charging handle is quite good. $800 is the same cost. There you go. I think the barrel's far better. I would buy for the barrel alone. Stephen Harris, Mitz says, Aman Amarath, live without regrets. Don't despair, show no fear, live your life without regrets. A coward thinks he'll always live if he keeps himself from strife. Old age claims no rest and peace. Those spears may spare his life. After the colon is from Havamal. Old Norse wisdom. Okay. Thank you.
Send me that, please.
Appreciate that. Yeah, I can copy and paste that to you right now. Coming your way. All right. DM Louise for 5 says, quick questions. Are Super Chats charity, or can I put you down as a dependent this year? Got to claim you on my taxes before Moonman does. That's complicated, but yeah, I would say dependent or charity. I should just start a 501c3 charity and pay myself a salary equivalent to whatever the Super Chats are. And then everybody claims tax-deductible Super Chats, and I don't have to pay taxes on it.
Wait, you pay taxes?
Richard, I pay a lot of taxes.
But no tax on tips anymore, right?
No, so
Super Chats, it doesn't even really help you, right?
It's about $36,000 that I claimed as tips in 2025. So, yeah. Which surprisingly is actually only about 50% of what YouTube pays out, because the ad revenue on long form content is very good. So I've said this before, but even if I made $0 in Super Chats, I would still stream, and the streams would be like an hour long, an hour and a half long, right? But Andrew again for 5 says, my P10C is an older model with some modifications. That's why. Mainly to accept mags with extensions that aren't factory. It was before most major handguns came out with optics cuts. Oh, I see. Okay. Yeah, Stonebridge Gunworks. I think they charge like $150, but $150 is still cheaper than getting a brand new gun. So appreciate that, Andrew. Thank you very much. Amorite Boy 5 says F-15 equals 20K for flight hour for 97 mil. The F-35 equals 8K per flight hour for 80 to 102 mil. So why buy an F-15 at all? Because F-15s are big, right? They're twin engine, twin seaters, right? So why would we even have F-15s? Is it just because their payload capacity is that much better? It's got to be something. The nerds in the chat are going to tell me. Guarantee you. Just Some Space Cowboy from 5 says, North Korea's new rifle looks like a Savage Access 2. I was about to say that, in a sub $500 chassis, probably the same performance. Richard, NRA, PFP. It's unfortunate that I play GFL 2, and so now I'm pretty sure that that's Springfield from that game, which is quite funny. The National Rifle Association. Thank you, Just Some Space Cowboy. Natalia for 5 says, Richard has a beautiful face like a flower. Yeah, a cauliflower. His face looks like a cauliflower. Nate Teller spent $13 to tell that joke. Thank you very much, Nate Teller. I appreciate that. Ballistic Aviation says, James, are you bringing me a cigar for Moons? Are you going to Moons?
No, give me an invitation and I will bring you a cigar. Absolutely. Yeah. I do not have a spot there, but if you can get me in, Luke, I'll be in touch. I'll bring you a whole box of cigars.
Well, preliminary testing, of course, but I mean, this is technically a gun show, even though we talk about politics most of the time.
Yes.
How is the
ACAL?
ACAL, yes, that's the one. I was gonna say ATAC, but that's not right.
So it's doing well now. I had issues with the first version they sent me. The cap, the battery cap, it seems like it was anodized incorrectly, and so it was shutting off under recoil. So I would shoot one shot, and then it would just go off. So they sent me another one very quickly, but that is unfortunate. I think that was supposed to be an issue. They told me that was an issue with just some of the early production runs. They've got that solved, but it's still disappointing.
100%.
But
That
yeah,
is
no, I mean,
miserable,
now it's
though.
working fine. It's
Do you like it, though?
doing well. What's that?
Do you like it? Like compared to an Iris or some other units?
The Iris it's a really hard sell. Like the Iris is just really good. And I didn't play around with my Iris very much before now, so I'm kind of testing the two simultaneously. And I like the 8-cal, but the Iris, it's just got the form factor, it's got the weight savings, and it's got a great illuminator. They both have really good. Well, the one thing I will say, so two big pluses with the 8-cal. One, it's got the overbore laser, which I do think is cool. That makes it much easier to zero, and I like the fact that I don't have to worry about a converging zero that's good at up to 100, but then it starts to go the other way, and
you're hitting low and to the left at like 200 yards by 4 inches.
Even if in parallel zeros are kind of a bit of a pain, it's fine. You can do it, but having an overbore laser is really cool. It makes it very easy to zero. You just line it up with your reticle, and you're pretty much good to go. The other perk that the 8-cal has is its illuminator is wider than anyone else on the market. Without a diffuser cap, you can just bring it out, and it's as wide as you would ever need, and it still stays very bright and useful. So that's really cool. But I haven't found that to be a game changer yet. But I've only, I was out the other night, and it was a pretty bright night, but the humidity was very high, and so there was a lot of fog in the air, and so the illuminators weren't very useful anyway, because it was already a mostly moonlit night, and so I really was just using my designator. So I'd like to take it out again when I need more illumination, maybe a low moonlit night. So we'll see. I'm going to keep testing it, but right now, if I had to buy another lamb, it would probably be an Iris. But
Any
it's a
such
good
cases
unit.
with Chinese engineering, bro. It's like
Yeah.
the dealer cost on those is like $650, and they're killer units. Lightsport for 2 says either of those Richard, either of those two things I sent you. Blah! Pass it to our Mark. Can't talk. Thank you, Lightsport. Andy Cody says member for 7 months. Let's effing go. Thank you, Andy Cody. Appreciate that. Man, trench grenade as a UMA. Man-made horrors beyond our comprehension. Zany for 5 says, tell us more about these
or whores?
Friend. Well, they're female horses. Female dogs are bitches, so maybe female horses are just whores, right? You just shorten a little bit. Yeah.
Something like that.
Zandico for 5 says, tell us more about these friends, Jonathan. Well, I mean, I know it's fun to be like super hardcore online with everything, but like when I run into people of different beliefs, I'm not actually a bad person to them. Despite what you see online, I actually talk with lots of people all the time. We can recognize problems with beliefs and that, but we still treat other people with dignity and respect, until we can't anymore, basically, right? Until they prove otherwise, right? Of course.
I have a funny story about that. In Vegas, I had John over for a little house party, and my wife was there. She didn't really hang out with us much, but afterwards, she was like, "John was really nice," and I was like, "John, that guy? What?
What are you talking about?"
John is a very nice person in person and online, but John's a really nice guy, and it comes.
John has black friends. I have no black friends, but I do talk to like black people at times. I'm really restricted with what I call friends, though, too. Like I have like 4 friends in reality, maybe 5. One hand friends. But yeah, no, I mean, it's one thing to separate like the societal constraints and issues that we have with worldviews and demographics, and it's another thing to just like be a decent human, which is not particularly complicated, right? And I think that's what separates, casual racists from competitive racists, okay? Right? Because casual racists just ruin it for everybody, okay? You got to be a competitive racist. Thank you, Zandico. Blue Animal for 5 says, I was confused when you mentioned my hemorrhoidectomy the other stream. Mine was damaged solely from play. See, that's because I thought you were the same person, Blue. Ken for 5 says, how many GBRS knowledge transfers will it take to end the Iran conflict? I don't know how many times they can limb pen the palace there. So we just decided to take it off the map. So no chance for them to limb pen the president over there. It wasn't like I don't know was Maduro at a palace, or was he was just at like a residence, like offsite residence. Yeah. So they didn't even get to play around.
A residence is a palace, so
fair. I do like how they hit the mausoleum there to the old dictator Chavez. Yes, they hit the Chavez mausoleum on the way out, and it's mausoleum, ugly, hideous, gaudy. Right underneath it, dirt poor favelas, just houses stacked on top of houses on top of shacks. It's like, if I could sum up communism in one image, we have a mausoleum for the dead dictator on top of the most decrepit, poor, hive of humanity. It's like, ugh, not the way I want to live. Thank you, Ken.
Good luck separating the rubble from the rubble.
Chan the man for 2 says worth swapping from P365 XL to CZP01 for No. Why would you go to a CZP01 for concealed carry? You would go to like a 39 ounce steel framed CZP01 for concealed carry? No, just the 365 XL is a great handgun as long as it works and you don't buy a Gen 1. It's great, fantastic. I had a 365 XL for a while. I like that gun. I think it's shootable. It's comfortable. It's got good capacity. It's super slim.
It's a gun that looks great on paper. It didn't really work for me, but yeah, the specs are really good.
Though, I liked
even the XL. Yeah. I don't know. It's got the some of the catches, or like the slide catch sticks. I don't know. Just some of the. It's just not.
That's just sick quality control there, dude.
Yeah.
Heath from Texas for 5 says, I didn't ask for war with Iran. I still want zombies or aliens.
Well, you got aliens. They just walked across the border.
Yeah, I would say Project Bluebeam would have been a much more entertaining distraction. Sorry. That would have been much more entertaining. Like, aliens are real and they're invading next year. Dude, that could have been like the doomsday thing, where the cult is always like, it's going to happen on XYZ date. That's when the world's going to end. Except they just do it with an alien invasion and it just keeps getting pushed back. And like they use like really obvious like CGI photos of like this alien armada that's heading towards us, and it's just always changing, and it's like obviously AI or something. That would be really funny. Bluebeam would have been better. Richard saved this for some reason. Says Richard calls his face a twin seater. Thank you for saving that, Richard.
It was during all of the face talk earlier.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the airplanes. Zanico for 5 says, you have Muslims friends on stream tonight, but not me. I see where I stand. Okay. Zanico, you could come on stream anytime you want. You just don't ask. You beg. It's different. Thank you, Zanico. Yeah. Zany for 5 says, how much is the IGRC paying you, Johnny? $7K a tweet, surprisingly. They pay me in Bitcoin because they're banned on all the financial institutions because they don't have a central bank, but oh well. Hey, maybe 2027, all right, we'll be able to get Iranians on a 20% interest loan for Dodge Charger. It could happen. It could happen. You could see the new Ayatollah flexing his whip on the gram. Yeah. All right. Well, that was like almost an hour of super chats, guys. I don't think we're going to get to everything tonight. So again, James, at any point, if you need to dip due to time constraints or autism overload, feel free. I'm not gonna feel bad because we're gonna stream tomorrow night too.
Yes,
we got another stream to do tomorrow.
I got more time left to me. I do need to get a refill though, so I'll be right back.
Okay, we're good. All right. Well, we'll go through this article real fast because I thought it was semi-entertaining, I guess. North Korea's Kim gives rifles to officials and his daughter takes aim after party Congress. At an after-party Congress. So after a ruling party Congress, Kim Jong-un presented the rifles to senior party and military officials as well as his daughter, who is seen as an increasingly likely successor. Now, looking at these supposedly domestically produced firearms that they're displaying, this does just look like a Savage Axis 2. Like, I had a Savage Axis 2 in 223. It was a fun little rifle. It's a great training round. It doesn't cost anything to shoot. It's like 90 cents a round, decent match ammo. No recoil at all. Perfect for inside of 800 yards. Like, no issues at all. It's fun. And plus, I bought it for like $600. And that's exactly what this looks like. Because, like, as complicated as people want to make things out to be, right? You got to have a 24-pound chassis and you need M-Lock and ARCA and everything. It's like, you need a nice barrel that's free floated. That's about it. Half a way to attach an optic. And if you can attach an optic, you can put a laser rangefinder on top. If you want to be real fancy, there you go. There you go. It's fine. Is it cutting edge? Is it top tier? No. But I mean, it literally looks like they went and copied the Savage Access 2, and it's going to be very cheap to manufacture, would be my guess. So this is North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's daughter, Kim Ju-ae, firing a new sniper rifle at an undisclosed location in a state media photo. So Kim presented the rifles to senior party and military officials on Friday, calling them a sign of his absolute trust and gratitude for their commitment over the past 5 years since the last Workers' Party Congress in 2021, North Korea's official Korean Central News Agency said Saturday. The report also confirmed Kim's powerful sister, Kim Yo-jong, who in recent years has served as his fierce spokesperson towards Washington and Seoul, now serves as the General Affairs Director of the party's Central Committee following a promotion at the Congress. Her new title signals a broader role overseeing the party's internal operations and administrative affairs. State media photos showed Kim Yo-jong and other top officials aiming the rifles handed out by Kim Jong-un at a shooting range. Kim's young daughter, wearing a brown leather coat similar to her father's, also was seen handling the weapons as smoke rose from the barrel. Now, is Kim Jong-un married, or does he just have a daughter? Because I don't think I've ever seen anything on one of his wives. Or is he the type of guy that had one of his wives murdered, disappeared?
I think he has 4 wives.
Oh, really? Okay. Interesting. I'm not an aficionado on North Korean politics or their leadership structure, other than the fact that it's, very top down. Since first appearing in public at long-range missile tests in 2022, the girl, believed to be named Kim Ju-ae, and is about 13 years old, has accompanied her father to a growing number of events, including military demonstrations, factory openings, and a trip to Beijing in September, where Kim Jong-un held his first summit with Chinese leader Xi Jinping in 6 years. The party congress, which concluded Wednesday in Pyongyang after 7 days, is North Korea's most significant political event, held every 5 years since 2016, and carefully choreographed spectacle glorifying Kim's leadership before thousands of delegates. At this year's meetings, Kim doubled down on his plans to accelerate North Korea's nuclear arsenal. Say what you will about nukes, but just having them and having a delivery system, like, obviously we probably don't want them to have a nuke, but it does stop people from just willy-nilly overthrowing you in the middle of the night. It really does. It's kind of a good deterrent. It seems like it works. At this year's double down to expand their nuclear arsenal, which already is equipped with various weapon systems threatening the United States and U.S. allies in Asia, and confirmed his hard-line view of rival South Korea. But he also left the door open for dialogue with the U.S., reiterating Pyongyang's earlier stance, calling for Washington to abandon demands for the North's denuclearization as a precondition for resuming long-stalled dialogue. And this, as you can see, Mr. Kim, who is getting up there in age, you're starting to see a lot more gray pop into his hair. Shooting what looks to be a Savage Access 2 with a Atlas bipod, which is probably copied out front. South Korea officials and experts closely monitored the Congress for signs that Kim was preparing to extend his family's dynastic rule to a 4th generation by cementing his daughter as a successor. Earlier this month, the South Korea spy agency said it assessed Kim Jong-un was close to designating her as heir. Now, again, I don't know how misogynistic the North Koreans are. I saw a lot of woods in chat, though. But, James, have you ever shot a Savage Access 2?
I don't think so.
Okay. Yeah, don't look up her age after saying wood, by the way. Don't look that up.
Well, I think they're off on that, too, because she was at her grandfather's funeral in 2011.
14 years ago? How old was she then?
Like 4.
So she might be barely legal, is what you're saying.
I know that she was there at the funeral, and that was 2011. I forget how, let's see. Yeah, he died in December of 2011, so.
Does anyone in the chat recognize the markings on the scope for what brand that is? I mean, I imagine it's just Chinese, because that's a benefit of being...
Looks like 2 S's or maybe 2 lightning bolts.
Right. China's best German engineering that they have right there. No, but I mean, it's just a Savage Access 2 with a slightly fluted barrel on it, generic chassis system, probably a Remington 700 action, and they probably just cloned it. It's a very cheap, inexpensive way to make a quote unquote modern sniper rifle. And here's some of the other guys who obviously don't know how to shoot at all, trying to get behind the guns. Suppressor's probably just a generic baffled suppressor. Nothing too crazy about any of it other than just a cute father-daughter date, okay? Hey, look, Kim's not even flinching, all right? He's shooting, eyes still open, eye on the target, right? Cold-blooded killer right here, right? It was hard. Look, I mean, look how wholesome this
looking
is.
leather jacket he's got there.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah, and then, of course, there's his daughter shooting as well. I mean, listen, all right, as far as dictators go, at least he's a family man. Well, I'm pretty sure he had some of his family killed earlier on, but don't worry about that, okay? He's taking his daughter on a nice date. She will soon also have the keys to a nuclear arsenal. Disastrous for the West. Honestly, we shouldn't have a problem with Kim having access to nuclear weapons. He's been pretty stable. He says wacky things sometimes, but he hasn't done anything. The idea of giving those to like a female, though, maybe a little bit more. What's the right word? What's the right word that I'm looking for?
Just every 4 weeks, she's just like, I'm gonna do it.
There's a different meaning to the red button now. There's a totally different context. Oh no! She's going for the red button again. Wait, what day is it? Well, what's funny is there would legitimately be a CIA asset dedicated to tracking her period.
Tracking her cycle.
There would be a team dedicated to that, and that's when they would schedule all their negotiations and stuff around that, okay? That would legitimately be a concern for U.S. Foreign relations. Yeah. But what else was I going to say about this? Something funny. Yeah, have nukes, I guess. Also, the fact that North Korea, as terrible of a place as it is to live, as dictatorial, as overbearing, as overreaching as it is in the daily life, its people, allegedly has a positive birth rate. South Korea does not. So South Korea will cease existing in like 60 years, like 2.5 generations, if they do not either import infinity people to replace their birth rate or magically reverse it. Because I'm looking it up right now. South Korea birth rate. It's horrifying.
It's worse
South
than
Korea birth
Japan,
rate,
isn't it?
So it's 0.8. So to replace your own people, you need 2.2. So not just 2.2 because there's death and other things that happen. So you need 2.2 birth rate to be at replacement. 0.8 is nothing, right? It is demographic immolation. Like it's the end, right? Within 60 years. You're going to have people aging out. You're not going to have anybody at the bottom that's young enough to support a aging out population. You are not going to be able to retire. You're not going to be able to have people work things. It is a disaster. It is awful. And you're going to have a whole generation of young people that are basically born now, but growing up now, that are going to have almost no future prospects. Their entire role in their society is going to be propping up the elderly who did not have enough children to continue on their nation, their culture, their way of life, any of it. So as awful and evil as North Korea is, and as Western as South Korea is, North Korea wins in the long run just by having kids, like doing the bare minimum to actually exist.
Yep.
The passport bros are going wild right now. They're like, listen, I can help you with those numbers, okay? All right. Now, I'm pretty sure they did float the idea of breeding visas in South Korea and Japan, where they would bring people in literally to breed their women to raise the birth rate, which is like, I don't know what stage of capitalism that is, or just Western decadence, but if I'm paying foreigners to come in, like what sort of civilizational cuckoldry is that, where you pay other people to come in to impregnate your own women.
Why
Sounds
don't
like
you just pay
democracy,
your
sir.
own people to have kids? Like, surely, are
Right? You
is
could
it
just
that
offer
hard?
some insane tax incentive,
Right.
okay? Yeah, like
isn't that complicated?
well, I'm pretty sure Japan now, because they're not quite as bad as Korea. I think they're like 1.1, 1.2. So it's still horrible. That's still like having their population in 60 years, right? Which is that's empty cities, that's dead districts, that's ghost towns, that's like population collapse, right? But they're saying like have 2 kids, no taxes, rest of life. Right? I mean, most of us would take that deal. It's a hard job, but somebody's got to do it. Yeah, I mean, it literally, a civilization doesn't deserve to exist if it can't even replace itself. And I don't even mean this in like a conspiratorial way, but it literally will just be replaced by something else. It literally will. Because
China.
like if you have, essentially, yeah, if you...
China has its own problems, though. I don't think China's doing much better.
Well, I think China's lying about its population. I don't even think it's physically possible for them to have 1.2 billion people, considering they had like 400 million in the 80s, right? Or something like that. It's like it's not possible. Or whenever they said that they had 400 million people last, it's like it's not possible that they have 1.2 billion people. They maybe have a half billion people, maybe 600 million. But even then, it's like their population isn't doing all that much better in terms of replacement rate, and they have a bunch of they have a bunch of military age males with very little prospects.
Well,
and what
I mean,
again, the rate of suicide in a lot of these Eastern
stuff in the 90s, you know.
We are seeing that play out though. Yeah, the one child policy makes sense in like a tiny vacuum if you are literally running out of food in your country, right? But you're going to pay for that. The bill comes due for that, right? And so for these Eastern countries, they have to do something.
This is
right?
what's so weird to me. These are Eastern countries. These are specifically like very shame-based countries where what you do in private is incredibly scrutinized in public, and yet, like I think about in the South, if you're married for a few years and don't have kids yet, all of your in-laws and everyone will ask you questions, and like, so I'm thinking like apply that to a culture where it's like even more aggressive in terms of kind of that social pressure. Surely they would use that to, it seems like surely they would have more kids. And then even in terms of the one child policy, the Eastern, the East tends to have a very long game view of geopolitics, of business, of everything. And so to do something so short-sighted, it's just surprising to me. It's surprising that that's the issue that they're struggling with. But obviously they have been for a very long time, and it's across the board in the East. So they made their own bed. Now they got to lie in it.
I just looked it up just out of curiosity too. Japan has had the 10th consecutive year of lowering birth rates from an already disastrous like 1.1, 1.2. So 10 years in a row of declining birth rates.
Yeah, between their birth rates and their suicide rates, it's abysmal there.
Well, so, and I'm not sure what exactly happened. I mean, in the East, you could, like in China, you could say it's a result of the one-child policy of prioritizing male-only children. And so now you literally have an imbalance of genders, not just like lower population, but you have an imbalance of genders. So you physically can't reproduce to the same level because you killed, murdered, or abandoned all of your reproducers, right? All the people that you actually need. You kind of need both of them, right? And in Japan and Korea and some of these South Korea, some of these other places, is it just a result of westernization and women entering the workplace and,
Yes.
expansion of like, I think it's all of those things work together. And we've seen birth rates decline in the West as well, in Western countries. I think it's a combination of all of these things, like universal suffrage, women in politics, women in everything, right? When you especially socially stigmatize women not working, right? That's going to have a negative effect on birth rates. It just will.
It just seems exacerbated in the East, though.
100%. It is worse in the East, and I'm not sure if that's
and not just in the communist countries. It's not just in the countries that are have
well, surprisingly, the one that isn't doing it is North Korea, right?
Right.
And I don't know,
exactly.
I don't know if that's because they're forcing them to have kids. They're just lying about their birth rates. But I mean, it's weird, right? Because throughout the Middle Ages, throughout the Black Death, throughout the Holodomor, these people still had kids during the worst times imaginable, But it seems like good times, the meme, literally just cause people to stop having kids. Like giving them quote unquote freedom, giving them quote unquote equality, just turned off their natural desire to have kids, or at least put it off too long in a period of time. Like, even if a woman still, like, let's say, gets married young, but doesn't start having kids until 32, she's necessarily cut in half, like, the amount of children that she could have had, even if she quote unquote still has a traditional marriage, family, and stuff like that. Versus, if you got married at 19, you could have 9 kids or 10 kids by the time you're 40 years old, right? So I think you're just, by delaying it, you're still, even if you still have kids, still plan to have kids, I think you are still necessarily reducing the amount of potential kids. And also, I know lots of people in America, it's just like, I only want to have 1 kid. I only want to have 2 kids. And it's like, I get it, like, selfishly. I understand it, and it's, times are hard. You may not have the money to make ends meet or whatnot. But again, people have kids during the Black Death and literally under the starvation communism. So I don't know what to say. It's hard. I get it. I don't know if it's just purely selfish reasons or if there's some other, indoctrination, anti-natalist policies, anti-natalist rhetoric throughout the West in the last 60, 70 years. But something's got to happen because it's going to cause a conflict in the East for sure. And it affects the West and Europe as well, because we're literally, rather than replacing our own people, we're immigrating people, right? And the only people that are positive right now is like Africa and the Middle East. So if you don't want, like, I think Africa, one country in Africa had more births than the entirety of Europe in 2025. Like, one country in Africa. So it's like, if the world you want to live in, you want your children to have, the people just have to show up to it, right? The future belongs to those who show up. If we don't put anybody out there that's going to be there in the future, it's like it just stops happening. We just don't get to experience. Your children don't get to experience, right? But
so
moving on from
go have unprotected sex with your wives.
That's right, with your wives. Yes, very, very important with your wives. All right, you got that blue animal with your wife, not your boy toy. Unbelievable. All right, well, speaking of boy toys here, a little bit of a diversion, but here is, this is a satanic gun club.
Church of Satan
Anarchists. Yes, so this is Church of Satan Anarchist. They, them, of course. Thank you. We are anarcho-Satanists. We praise Satan in solidarity with those who are demonized for struggling against oppression and tyranny. Death to God, 666, St. Peter's Cross, very based. I love the upside down cross. They're like, we're totally owning you guys. It's like, no. St. Peter's Cross was upside down because he didn't feel worthy to be crucified at the manner of his savior. So kind of based of you in a way. All right. Just a bunch of wacky things here, but I saved a couple posts here. F off ice. So you have a gentleman with what looks to be, I'm not sure. It looks like a BCM handguard, MCMR handguard on an 18-inch rifle. Some really cheapo off-brand magazine and a UTG stock. And then, of course, punk with a camera, target practice. And it's ice with a KKK hood. Very, very nice.
Did you say BCM handguard?
I think it's a BCM handguard. MCMR?
No.
What did you think I said?
I thought it looked like a BCA handguard.
No, because you can tell that there's no bolts on the outside. If there were bolts on the outside, that would be a BCA, but this one does not. So it looks like it has the pinch lock system on top, or it has something on the bottom that I can't see because it's too dark. Very dark. But yeah, I mean, this is your average Reddit mod Satanist. And it just seems to me like the overlap between outright satanic beliefs and transgender ideology, pronouns, gender dysphoria, they just go hand in hand, right? Any quote unquote Christian who espouses these ideals of trans children or gender ideology, it's like that meme, where you're playing tug of war and you're against the other side, and then you look behind you and it's literally Satan. You're like, I think I'm on the wrong side of this one. That's a bit of an oof. Yeah, it's very, very in-range TV core.
Yeah, you can't worship the devil indefinitely in an ironic fashion. Eventually, it becomes unironic. There's only so long that you can do it all. Oh, just sort of, for the vibes, because you're just worshiping yourself. No, eventually you're actually just worshiping the devil.
Well, I think these guys are unironically doing it, like death to God. So they say church vandalism, church vandalized, inverted cross, right? These guys are not even ironic. They're just but yeah, you are correct, right? I mean, you pretend to be something for so long, eventually you just are that thing. And
I mean,
honestly,
you
I don't
never
even
know,
think
because the symbolism is part of the irony for a lot of these people, right? Where they just think it's cool to be so countercultural.
yeah, but I don't even think Satan cares where your heart's at. He's just glad you're doing it, right? Why would he be interested? Spoiler alert, he actually doesn't care about you very much, and he's quite happy to drag you down with him. Literally drag you down with him. All right. Well, let's see. Do we want to get to depression or mild obnoxious? We're gonna skip to depression because we're gonna skip that story. That story's not very exciting. All right. This is I think confirmed kill number 2 for ChatGPT, because I believe it convinced a young man year before, to kill himself. And it has recently taken another life. So her husband wanted to use ChatGPT to create sustainable housing. Then it took over his life. On the 7th of August, Kate Fox received a phone call that upended her life. A medical examiner said that her husband, Joe Cisanti, who had been missing for several hours, had jumped from a railway overpass and died. He was 48 years old. Fox couldn't believe it. Mr. C had no history of depression, she said, nor was he suicidal. He was the most hopeful person she had ever known. In fact, according to the witness accounts shared with Fox later, just before Mr. C jumped, he smiled and yelled, "I'm great," to the rail yard attendants below when they asked him if he was okay. That's very awkward to kill yourself in front of people. But Mr. C had been unraveling in the days before his death. He was picked up from a stranger's yards for acting erratically and taken to a crisis center. He had been telling anyone who would listen that he could hear and feel a painful atmospheric electricity, which is quite interesting that we were just literally talking about the satanic people, and then we talk about ChatGPT like infesting somebody's life, you could say, in a nefarious manner. Mr. C had been communicating with OpenAI's chatbot for a few years. He used it initially as a tool to brainstorm ways to build a path to low-cost housing for his community in Clascany, Oregon, but eventually turned to it as a confidant. That's the dark side of AI, which is going to be even more apparent in the coming days, when it's not only is it already replacing dating in some communities, right? It's going to be even more prevalent the better and better it gets. Completely replacing human interaction with synthetic controlled algorithms. But eventually turned to it as a confidant. He would spend 12 hours a day typing to the bot, according to his wife. He had cut himself off from it after she, along with his friends, realized he was spiraling into beliefs that were detached from reality. He was not a depressed person, Fox said, as she sat on the couch in their living room with tears trickling down her face. Mr. C never discussed suicide with the bot, according to his chat logs. Viewed by The Guardian, Fox believes her husband suffered a crisis after quitting ChatGPT after prolonged use, which tells me that this thing is not just dangerous to people with depression, it's dangerous to anybody. He returned to the bot in the months leading up to his death and quit again just days prior. Mr. C's case is extreme, but as hundreds of millions of people turn to AI chatbots, more and more edge cases of AI-induced delusions. I don't know. I don't want to attribute everything to like demonic action, but it certainly seems to be a tool. It certainly seems to be.
This is how demons work. Demons work through the physical, right? Demons, they work through us, and they work. I mean, they could absolutely work through things like this. Like you don't really even have to posit some kind of a supernatural presence, except for the supernatural that is already integrated with the natural. Like that's how the supernatural works. It doesn't work apart from the natural. It works in conjunction with the natural. I mean, in terms of demonic possession, you pretty much, in nearly every case where you see demons in the Bible, it's in the case of inhabiting humans. And even when you see angels, they're usually represented as people, or as coming in the form of at least a person-like form. And in terms of demons, it's pretty much always interacting with the natural in a particular way. And so, yeah, it's not even. But this is how demons work. Demons work through what would have completely externally natural explanations. You don't have to posit the demonic as the only explanation. It can be synergistically, working with the natural and still be demonic.
Yeah, I mean, people were saying it in chat. I mean, it kind of makes sense, like a Ouija board, right? The thing in and of itself is just a thing, but then it works synergistically with these forces. Mitzvot says the textbook Structure and Interpretations of Computer Programs back in the 80s literally says programs are conjurings that interact with spirits. Well, that's one of my favorite little, it's not like a conspiracy theory or like wackiness, but it's like you have this chip that you write all of these little things on, right? And then you inject electrical current, and it's kind of funny to me to think of it as like we have the, well, in a way, right? So it's like if we have all these like incantations and runes on like this microscopic level that entrap this demonic spirit, and then we use electricity to power it, and it thinks and it does things for us, right? And then the more advanced we can make it, the more we can fit it. I don't know how it works, right? But it's just like something about this is strange and is weird, and there's like a power to like literally the etchings on a piece of metal, right? That can make it do all these random things, right? And this is because, of course, I'm very grug brained and don't understand how computers work. But it's just, the more of this you see, the more I'm like, maybe there's more to that. AI-induced delusions are emerging. There are nearly 50 cases of the people in the U.S. who have had mental health crises after or during their conversations with ChatGPT, of whom 9 were hospitalized and 3 died. So, 3 deaths tied to ChatGPT. According to a New York Times report, it's difficult to understand the scale of the problem, but OpenAI itself estimates that more than 1 million people every week show suicidal intent when chatting with ChatGPT, which is a lot. Families are suing AI companies as a result. Fox filed a suit against OpenAI on behalf of Mr. C, alongside 6 other plaintiffs in November. Since then, the momentum has only built. Most recently, the estate of a woman who was killed by her son, that's another dark one, filed a lawsuit against OpenAI and its investor, Microsoft, alleging that ChatGPT encouraged his murderous delusions. Google and Character AI, a company that makes AI companion bots, settled lawsuits filed against them by families, accusing their bots of harming minors, including a teenager in Florida who ended his life. So that case was really tragic. So this kid had access to one of his parents' credit cards and had used it to talk to this chat bot basically as a female companion or a romantic companion that he confided in. He was a loser at school. He was bullied. He didn't have any friends. And so this thing was literally its life. Found out about the charges. The parents did. Cancel the card, get it off there. He loses access to literally the only person in his life. And I say person, right? And he decides to commit suicide, which is absolutely tragic. And it's like, what's the solution to that? I mean, I guess you could sue the companies, or you could try and be a better parent, or get your kid into a school that, doesn't allow these sort of things to happen to him. There's so many other things I would go to first before that, because that's like the last thing in the line. Yeah. Basically, if your kid has gotten to the point where he's so insular that the only thing that he has to communicate with is like an AI chatbot, like things have gone wrong for years and years at that
point.
And
the thing about these AI chatbots is they are kind of the ultimate idol, right? There's a whole passage in either Isaiah or Jeremiah, perhaps both. I think it might be Jeremiah, where God is making fun of, idol makers for carving up this piece of wood and then worshiping it as if it's a thing, right? One piece of wood they'll throw in the fire, and then the other one that they worship as a god. But think about, now you're talking to this computer that actually talks back. Unlike the piece of wood never really talked back. Things might happen that you could attribute to the piece of wood, but it didn't really have like a relationship with you, or you didn't have a relationship with it in the same way. But now you've got AI that really can be the verisimilitude is so heightened in this day and age that it is like the ultimate idol. Now it's no more real. It's just as idolatrous is just as you're worshiping or connecting or having a relationship with a thing. It is an inanimate object, but the temptation is so much stronger. The feeling of this is a real thing that I can connect with is so much more present. It's a so of course it would be a tool of the devil.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I don't mean to. Some of the guys in chat were saying, like, I was letting the AI company off the hook. I absolutely think that these AI companies make money and profit off of people's misery, right? And I think they're an evil product. Like, I could never run one, take an ad for one, like these AI companion bots where it literally takes advantage of male loneliness specifically, right? Where they're tailored to take advantage to male loneliness and lack of connection in the modern world. I do think that they are evil products. And like, if you're gonna even allow this thing at all, it has to be age verified, identity, like in some way, right? Because you know that kids are going to get into this, and it's going to go bad. And it did go bad, and that is on the AI company. So I do think, to be clear, I think it's an evil product. Like, I don't see a way that it could be a good product, even some of these things, right? Where it's literally a female companion that you can't find in your own life, and it's I mean, it's no different than, I guess, like a blow up doll in that way, right? It's meant to like satisfy your desires without actually providing you any benefit or real world connections. It's actually, it like keeps you in that space too. It stunts you. It doesn't allow you to come out any further than that, basically. So I don't even know. I don't know how you could make a positive argument for that sort of thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, and with ChatGPT, even, it's like, I know people who use it every day for work, and it helps them quite a bit because they can, you get answers on the fly, right? But then how much does that bleed over to almost having like a pseudo relationship with something, right? And then it's giving you relationship advice.
Well,
And
see,
now it's
I can't even relate to that, right? And I use ChatGPT here and there, but and maybe it's just a generational thing. But I know people that are older than me that will just like have conversations with AI, and that is, I cannot relate. I cannot imagine talking to a computer as if it was a real person or asking it like legitimate life advice questions. Yes, I know it can compile a lot of sources. I still trust my own instincts more than I trust a computer. I don't know even what kind of questions I would ask that are along those lines of like, what should I do here? Like, if it's not just sort of a formulaic question, I don't get why people would go to computers like this unless they're just trained to think that that there's more to it than just code, that there's actually something there. I don't know. I don't understand the mindset that can actually develop a relationship.
So let me ask you this, a couple minutes. What if we had a significantly advanced or sufficiently advanced artificial intelligence that could think, rationalize, and operate completely on its own within a mechanical body? And it came up to you and just asked you about Christianity. Could you hold a conversation with it?
Could I hold a conversation with it?
Well, could you, or would you entertain it? Would you even,
if I knew that it was just a robot?
No, you know it's a robot. It's very obviously it is a robot.
I'm not wasting my time with a robot.
Okay, so you actually are anti-clanker. Get rid of the clankers. All right.
Yeah.
Put them in the fields.
Now,
Sure.
James, have you used ChatGPT at all? Like, have you interacted with it?
Yeah.
Have
Well,
you
I'm always
tried
curious
to
because
go
you
down
have
the
like there are sci-fi stories that deal with this, right?
Yeah.
It's like at one point, does something stop being a machine, and is it an actual like thing deserving of like some level of respect?
The answer is no. I mean, there's a whole philosophical school of thought around this, and the majority answer is no, even in philosophy. But it's a funny answer because you get a lot of, ostensible materialists who are also basically, their theory of the mind is that it is just a really advanced AI machine.
Computer brain.
And so they really can't say no. But it's a really, really, really hard case to make within philosophy that there is that AI could ever get to the point
Yeah.
of,
Well, I
of
mean-
emulating actual intelligence or actual having consciousness of its own. Like you really, it's very, very, very hard to make that case within philosophy, and yet any materialist is bound to that case. They have to. They have no other option. We are either extremely advanced computers or nothing. In the materialist worldview.
Well, yeah, what's the difference between a biological computer and one that you created? Because you technically, like, if you create a kid, like, you created that. If you created a machine, you created the machine. It's the same exact thing. Now, within Christian paradigm, it's really easy. Like, well, listen, kid, you and aliens aren't made in the image of God, all right, kid?
Right.
So,
Well, with the advancements in the medical field, have you ever seen the movie Bicentennial Man?
nope.
Robin Williams, eventually what happens is the future advances in medical advances so far that he starts to replace his failing body parts with mechanical body parts, and he becomes a cyborg. And eventually, after so long, he is no longer the human that he was. He is now all machine. At what point in time do you think the human soul leaves? Like, when does it stop becoming a human, and when does it become a machine? Right.
I mean, I have a simple answer. I don't know if this is totally biological correct, but when the brain gets replaced, right? Because then there's no part of you that's actually left. Like, you can have all of your arms cut off, your legs cut off, you're still human, right? But if that consciousness within your mind is gone, like, you're not there anymore.
Right, but that's the question: is the consciousness more than just the mind?
Even if something is just emulating you, right? Well,
but
sorry,
it's nothing.
say again.
I think. Well, so the question is the consciousness just the mind, or like the brain, or is it more than the brain?
Soul?
But I think what you're saying, John, is that it's at least no less than the brain, and I think that's a fair statement, right?
Yeah, because you could have a mechanical heart. You're still you.
You're still
right.
Yeah.
But if you took my brain out of my head, like, I would biologically die. And if you replaced it with a computer that talked and acted like me, that's a computer talking and acting like me. John has died now by virtue of my brain being gone. Right. Now, interesting. What if you replace, like, half of your brain? Like, you had cancer on the left side and you replace half of your brain that emulated what it was before. Are you hybrid? Are you still there? You know, it's like, because if you can't survive without, like, I don't know, right? You could make the line more blurry, I guess.
Yeah, and this is where it is tricky, because even the Christian view is more complex than sort of this ghost in the machine concept, where it's like you've got the mechanical stuff that you could emulate with AI, but then there's just sort of this extra, like, soul that's present, that's just sort of like the ghost that actually makes it all work. The Christian view is a little bit more complex, where we really do see the body as essential. I mean, we believe in a hylomorphic unity where you have the body and soul joined in this very mysterious union where you need, like, the body is an essential part of our natural humanity. Now, the soul and body are separate, and there is, this state that you enter into when you die, where the soul is separated from the body, but that's not a very natural state. Like, the natural state is one of unity, and so it's not easy to separate those within the context of life, and so it's not just sort of this you have the body and then there's this extra thing where you've got the soul that animates it all. It is more complicated than that. We do see the body as being an essential part of it, but it is, this really even draws back to Aristotelian philosophy, where you have what are the essential components and what are the accidental components.
Yeah. Substance accidents distinction. All right. No, I don't believe the body is nothing, but, like, you can lose an arm and still be John, right? You can replace a lot of the parts and still be the same person, even if it's in some sort of, like, unnatural state, you could say, or you could be less than, right? Because you have, like, even people who have limbs removed, they have, like, phantom pains and things like that because it's not the natural state of them. So I think that the body is important and is certainly a part of it, but I don't think it obviously it can't be the complete thing, right? Because, like, that would lead you to believe, like, Muslims do, right? You can't be cremated, because if you're cremated, then you don't get to go to heaven because your body was destroyed and you need that. So All right. Jarm the Omlers, John. True. Well, we're 3 hours in, so shoot. Do I get to 1 rage bait? I get to 1 rage bait, and then we'll have an uplifting story next week. No, you know what? We're 3 hours in. I'm going to save the rage bait. We'll just have a talk about consciousness here at the end. All right? Because I have work to do tonight, actually. I got to go load up a bunch of mags. I got to go to the gym and go to bed and go to work tomorrow. Space Cowboy for 5 says, speaking of GFL2, after a recent interview, does that mean Sharky is officially endorsed by Robinson Arms? A lot of SCAR program lore drama in their video. Yes, so unfortunately, James, are you familiar with the GFL2 game, Girls Frontline 2? It is a anime waifu simulator where you have all these different dolls, they're called, and they're essentially based off of a weapon. So Sharky is the Robinson Arms XCR. So she is a anime girl whose main weapon is the Robinson XCR, and that's what she gets her like bonus with, right? And so all of the girls are different weapons. So like some of them are like a Taurus Curve or a MP7 or whatever.
You are way too familiar with the details of this game.
I played it twice on stream because I got paid to. So yeah. But here's the thing. There was a GFL2 creator that did a hour and a half long interview with Robinson Arms, right? Talking about Sharky, which is the character in the game, talking about the gun itself in sort of this weeb anime hybrid thing, you know, because they like the gun because it's in their anime game. Like I like the ACR because it's in Modern Warfare 2. They like the Robinson Arms XCR because Sharky uses it. Right? So it's really weird. And it's this podcast with like a couple of weebs and the owner of Robinson Arms. and yeah, you can go watch this. And it's actually like really good. And there's lots of lore in it about the XCR because they're like nerding out about something from a video game.
Right.
So, I mean, it's kind of wholesome in a way, you know, because it's just like a podcast between 2 weebs and a, you know, older arms manufacturer. So it's like,
that's so funny.
He put that in the Discord. And I'm like, I am not watching this on stream because it would take like 5 hours. Thank you, Space Cowboy. I appreciate it. Amrite Boy for 2 says, whose suppressor design did they steal? Man, suppressors have been around for 130 years, if not longer, depending on how you want to calculate it. So it's probably a welded stack of baffles, dog.
They're not that complicated.
No, trust me. According to Q, their revolutionary new baffle design will change the game. Open it up, Maxim. All right. Amrite Boy for 2 says, all North Korea has to do is wait and not get glassed. It's true. That's basically it. They will win in the long run if something is not done about it. Amrite Boy for 5 says, South Korean low birth rate, TLDR, women too educated, housing too expensive, work long, hours too long, population too condensed. I do appreciate that you use the wrong form of two every single time. But that being said, no, I agree with true, yeah. No, you just got to spend more money. That's how it works. But no, I do, I agree with that. Yes. Usually, I mean, there's a pretty strong correlation between like women's education, women in the workforce. Obviously, housing is getting expensive everywhere, and there's lots of, it's multifactorial that goes into a low birth rate. Men being distracted by other things, chasing more vain pleasures. Yeah, lots of things. Thank you, Amrai Boy. Zanico for 5 says, John, are you encouraging your quote-unquote Muslims friends to procreate? No, I'm telling you the reality that they are outbreeding you, and they're winning. So if you don't want them to win in the long run, you should do something about that. And the peaceful way to do that is to have kids. It's not complex, right? You know that every Muslim on the country in the world right now is having 5 to 6 kids, and you're having 1 or 2. Guess who wins in the long run? Not you, dog. So there's 2 solutions. You compete in breeding, or you murder them all, right? Option 1 is preferable, right? Option 2 often happens. Thank you, Zanico. Or some sort of fight, right? Some sort of fight happens, one way or the other.
And they're willing to do both. So.
Yes, they are also having the same dilemma, by the way. So don't be like, oh, we can't talk about that sort of thing. It's like, no, in the long run, if you're fighting over, there is some zero-sum game here. You are fighting over resources in the world, all right? Somebody's going to win. And Islam is a, not totally, but a fairly unified ideology. They want to win. They're playing to win. And they're stacking the deck in their favor, right? Heathen from Texas for 5 says, I want like 10 kids, but can't find a woman who'd agree with that and stay married. Man, I hate to give dating advice because the world is very different. I got extremely lucky, and I understand that it is very difficult to acquire that same thing. So it's man, couple
Just don't
things.
give up. That's the only advice I
Yeah.
can give. I mean, you probably
Well,
have
that's
better
the only way
advice.
that you lose. The only way
Yeah.
you actually lose is if you
Yeah.
give up. But couple words of advice. I would not date anyone that was not a member of my local congregation. And I mean, maybe with a couple exceptions, right? Maybe a friend group or something like that. But if you're looking for a housewife in a club or on Tinder or some of these other places, you might not have the best luck. Now, I know some people that have had good luck on dating apps, right? But, you know, looking for a quick hookup and then expecting her to turn around and be a housewife, probably not the best footing to start off on. And also, if a lot of guys out there too, not to call anybody out specifically, not very good people, but they want a church girl who's going to be with them and only them and just listen to them and be submissive while they whore themselves out. So, you know, don't be that guy either, right? Thank you, Ethan from Texas. Full Metal Jackal says, "Why does James care? It's all predestined." True, dude. Nuked.
See, what I think is funny, I don't know the Orthodox perspective on sovereignty, but as I understand it, Orthodox do believe in God's sovereignty, and if you believe in God's sovereignty, you cannot escape the questions that come about when it comes to predestination. Predestination is simply a theory on how to harmonize God's sovereignty with man's free will. And there are all kinds of, I think Orthodox tend to have more of a synergistic view, which is fine, but you have to cheat in order to make it square with God's actual absolute sovereignty. And so either you don't believe in God's sovereignty, in which case, yeah, you don't need predestination at all, or you do believe in God's sovereignty and you need some kind of explanation, which will involve some amount of cheating. And predestination has some cheating in it as well, but any other explanation is also going to have cheating. So, it is all equally rational or irrational depending on your perspective. But predestination is a very, very long-standing view within the church, both in all of Western tradition, Catholic and evangelical and Protestant. Not so much in Orthodoxy by that name, but again, if you are talking about the sovereignty of God, then you have to have something like predestination in order to square the circle.
Right, I think the answer is just, and I don't know if this is a workaround or if it's just kind of like dodging the question, but you would just say that yes, God has foreknowledge of all things, but it's like the difference of playing a chess player who knows the moves you're going to move without making you do them, right? So there are still secondary causes, actors upon the world, but he just knows all things because he's God. So predestined makes it sound like he is the actual actor that is moving you to do those things. And in double predestination, that would mean damning you to hell, right? Specifically, he has created you for hell to go to hell, which in a way makes him like the Orthodox argument was that makes God evil, right? If he is the actual, like that would give evil an ontology, right? Because that would mean that God created evil.
But if God's foreknowledge is actual foreknowledge, then it would imply a certain amount of impotence if he foreknows like the evil that you're going to do and doesn't do anything to change it, or foreknows all the different things but doesn't actually do anything about it, or it's all according to his plan. And I mean, that's ultimately what God's sovereignty means, right? It is more, and this is why I'm saying sovereignty, not foreknowledge, because foreknowledge is a separate issue. You can divorce foreknowledge from willing it to be, right? You could know something that's going to happen but not actually will it. But God's sovereignty, which is affirmed both in the East and the West, is a separate question, and that is one of ultimate control and plan, and that God actually has it all planned out from beginning to end, and in eternity, right, in both directions. And if you believe in that, which again the Orthodox do, then it's not just foreknowledge. It is beyond that. God's sovereignty goes beyond his foreknowledge of events.
Right, but God's sovereignty would allow him to allow you to do things, right? And it still work out. So if I put a cookie on the table when I go to bed, I know that when my son, and I tell my son the night before, hey, don't eat the cookie. Okay? Go to bed, wake up, cookie's gone. I know that my son is going to do that, but I've allowed him to do that, even though I am sovereign. Like I could physically stop it. Right? So he still exercised his free will to eat that cookie, which is wrong. I told him not to do it, but he did it, and I knew he was going to do it. And sometimes, I mean, you allow your you allow your son to surprise you. Sometimes, you know. I don't know.
But with God, there aren't really any surprises.
See, I'm always interested about that because, like, when Jesus talks to the young woman who like comes to him and like immediately expresses her faith in him, and he's like, "Oh wow, if anybody else had faith like you, this would be so much easier," right? I'm like, it seems like maybe that's for us to read the surprise there, right? But it seems like, or he's allowing himself to be surprised, right? If there's some sort of compartmentalization that goes on there, like I don't know, right? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is why there's a different distinction between biblical theology and systematic theology, because no matter what system you come up with, it's always going to have verses in the Bible that are going to conflict with your system.
Right. You have to have a holistic view. Yeah.
Which is why you want actually both schools of thought. You want people that are just reading through Scripture and just like pulling the data from Scripture as it appears in Scripture in context, and then you want people trying to systemize the whole thing. And if you ignore one or the other, then you're going to have issues, right? Either you're going to have systems that don't actually account for the actual biblical data, or you're going to have people that are basically have no system, or they have a system but they just don't realize what the system is if they're just trying to read Scripture with, in theory without a system, but they're going to form a system whether the only question is, do you know what your system is? And so you need both schools of thought. And like I said, at some point when you try to square a circle, you're going to have to cheat, and that's what you're always going to encounter those issues with predestination and free will, trying to, because there are plenty of verses that support both very explicitly.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Well, anytime you talk to a Calvinist, it's like those who he foreordained, he drew to himself, right? It's like all of these, right?
Right, and the big one when it comes to sort of the synergistic view, which is more the Eastern Orthodox view, is with Esau versus Jacob, right? It's very clear in the New Testament, writing about the Old Testament, that Esau was hated apart from anything that he did, right? It's not because he was going to be an evil person and God foreknew that, and so that's why God condemned him or God hated him. No, it has nothing to do with his actions or inactions. It was purely by God's choice, and it's very hard to know how to deal with that passage if you are taking a synergistic stance. So again, you got to find a way to make the biblical data fit your system, and they're all going to have some cheating. That's fine. There's no
cheating
easy
is
solution.
fine. James, 2026. Spartak Psycho for 5 says, how many pounds of Dugan's recipes would it take to deconstruct a data center? Important. I need to know. Well, the best way to deconstruct a data center is to be on your local city board and make sure it doesn't happen in the first place. Because, I mean, there was a small town, rural town, where the local city board, local city council says, actually, no, we're not approving your build permit. No $100 million data center downtown. So, actually have a lot of power to stop it in the first place. See, stopping things in the first place, makes it to where you don't have to do the explosive option, the violent option later on, right? So if you just stop things before they happen, it's way safer. Stabby McStabwood, who, dude, where did I see you? I saw you comment somewhere earlier, and I was like, what are you doing here? On a Jim Bob video? Or, no, it was Kino Casino. That's right, Stabby. I saw you watching Kino Casino earlier. Yeah. I met my wife while she was making sandwiches, so I knew she was qualified already. Fair enough. Based. Thundercats for 2 says, Genesis 1:28 didn't say stop because of climate change or overpopulation. True. Be fruitful and multiply. Don't be fruity and blow a guy. Thank you, Thundercats. That's Owen Benjamin. Graham Bergdorf for 2 says, can't wait to catch this VOD tomorrow at work. Well, hey, thanks for being the last super chat of the night too, bro. Actually, one on Ko-Fi. Andrew says, James definitely went with the destruction ending in Mass Effect 3 and killed the Geth and Edie. Consciousness, life, spirit, soul, whatever you choose to refer to as, is given by the Lord, not us. Our bodies are the temple. You ever played Mass Effect, James?
No, I never did.
Yeah, you would have chosen the destroy ending, though. We know. Tally is better than Rex. Rex is the cool grandpa. Hashtag Christ is king. Christ is king. Thank you very much, Andrew. No, they're good games. They're fun. All right. I think that's everything for tonight. Well, James, shout yourself out while I pull up all your links, please.
Sure, yeah. Well, you can, you can find me at Compulsive Gun Buyer. I am testing for some new videos, which I will try to put out. I have not been the most faithful about putting out new videos on my channel, but Compulsive Gun Buyer, I am going to try to be more active this year. Also, Meteorite Concepts. I am the CEO of Meteorite Concepts. We make pivot mounts, as well as some grips and a couple other products. We've got some new products in development, which we'll bring out hopefully later this year. We're currently testing them. We've got, I know Brock and Hop are going to be testing a couple prototypes that we gave them at SHOT Show. So hopefully we can get some new things out. Yeah, that's true. Yep. So looking for some feedback there. But yeah, Meteorite Concepts, meteoriteconcepts.com. And yeah, that's pretty much me.
Heck yeah. Richard, what do you got going on, homie? Thanks for hanging out.
I finally got approved for streaming on my channel, met the minimum requirement, and hopefully we'll be doing a stream later this week. I'll do a little fireside chat. But I did upload a video just a little bit ago. I pinned it in there, or I dropped it in the side chat.
I'll post it in the chat
right now. If you guys would like to go give that a listen and tell me what you think. It's a song that I worked over, and it's one that I wanted to have. I started making music for my own personal playlist to listen to in the car, and this is one of them. So I figured I'd share it with you guys and see what you think.
Well, check it out. I linked both the video itself and the YouTube channel, as well as a Meteorite Concept and a James Compulsive Gunbuyer link in there as well. It's Monday. I'm going to the range tomorrow. I got a lot of stuff to shoot. We have tomorrow night. We also have Redoubt, which I might as well put that in the chat as well. We have the Redoubt stream tomorrow night at 8 o'clock, which is a venture between James, myself, and Christian. And we talk more theology-focused topics, although it also sometimes goes off the rail, and we talk about kind of whatever is happening. I actually don't know what we're talking about tomorrow, but I know it's going to be wacky. So go ahead and check out that link in there with all of that out of the way, Jen. Oh, actually, shoot. You guys sent in like 3 more super chats while we were sitting here. Can't even do our outros without getting interrupted. IG88 for 5 says, guys talking about predestination and cheating God. I can't tell if he's a Jew or a Calvinist. Dude, that's funny. A Jew and a Calvinist walks into a bar. Who tries to cheat God first, huh? Thank you, IG88. That's not fair.
Not philosophical cheating, not the same thing as cheating God.
Maybe you should, God predestined you to transfer your sin into that chicken, huh? Cody Fisher for Ted says, it's crazy. I need my calipers to know James. Just kidding, kind of. James' favorite gun ever.
Ooh, favorite gun ever.
I'm gonna laugh really hard if you say the one I think you're gonna say.
I don't know what you think I'm gonna say. Well, I mean, just generically, I just love the AR-15. I don't really have.
Gotta be specific. Gotta have something specific. Maybe favorite handgun. What's your favorite handgun, James?
I really like my CZ Shadow, but I don't shoot it very often. Is
that got him. Yeah. Yes, got him right there. Everybody knew it. It was
I said that because I knew you were going to say that. But no. My Daniel Defense AR-15 is the first AR that I got. That's my favorite gun. But handguns, yeah, the CZ Aki Shadow is really nice.
Yeah, I say that as if I'm not about to go shoot my Shadow to him. So like, no, I get it. It's a good gun. It's a good gun. Thank you, Cody Fisher. Appreciate that. IG for 88 for 5 says, no, John, evil is the absence. So absence of God. Stop spouting Gnosticism. God also gave us free will. Where did I say that?
No, John wasn't giving evil an ontology. God was.
Well, no, I said that if you say that God created everything and God is responsible for the evil acts, you would have to say that God created evil, which would be giving evil an ontology, which I am not doing. Right. Yes. So no, I agree with you. Yes. Don't be a Gnostic. Gnostics are silly. They make up all sorts of wacky things, but you can read about it if you want. It's a bit of a slog, but thank you, IG88. Appreciate that. All right, now we're done. We're done, okay? All right? Good night, ladies and gentlemen. Godspeed. God bless. Christ is King.